Chapter 1815. Along the way, Chumu gave up on the yellow shuttle and took out another one. Whether it was Lin Jintong Space Ring, Wu Yuzi Space Ring, or In Wukong Space Ring, they all had shuttles. Furthermore, they were not ordinary shuttles, but premium shuttles. Premium flying shuttles were much faster than normal flying shuttles. After Chumu switched flying shuttles, the time it took to reach the destination was naturally shortened by a lot. Aside from being faster, it had another use, which was to confuse enemies. He knew that the evil Dragon Hall's revenge had already begun. That revenge would not be so simple. Although Chumu was not afraid, he would not underestimate it either. As a result, it was naturally better to stall for time. He could use this time to raise his cultivation and strength as much as possible. As expected, Chumu's yellow shuttle had become a symbol. However, when he suddenly switched shuttles, it was as if he had lost his target and was unable to find him. Mount Dragon's Head was 999 meters tall. The entire Dragon Head Mountain, from the foot of the mountain to the top, was filled with a strange force field. The force field gradually grew stronger from the bottom to the top. When it reached the top, it was extremely powerful. It was enough to crush an ordinary 8-star Saint level cultivator. Even a 9-star Saint level elite would feel pressure by it. At this moment, a person sat cross-legged at the top of the Mount Dragon's Head. The strange and powerful force field was everywhere, crushing down from all directions. However, this person did not move at all, as if he was not affected at all. His aura revolved around him, forcefully resisting the force field and pushing it back a little. The aura seemed to only be at the early 8th heavenly layer, but it was extremely tough. It seemed to have evolved into the shapes of an azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise. They revolved around the person, appearing very lifelike. This person was Chumu. After switching shuttles a few times, he had confused the enemy, making it harder for them to track him down. He had bought himself some time to cultivate on the top of the Dragon's Head Mountain, planning on breaking through first. Chumu had gained quite a bit from the spatial rings of the 3 Dark Star Sword Saints and the 3 Hidden Experts. In addition to the Sinner's Heart and the Flying Shuttle, there were also other cultivation method manuals and medicinal pills, a bottle of 4 divisions energy refining pills, and a bottle of soul recovery pills. The 4 symbols energy refining pill, as its name suggested, was a pill that contained a trace of the power of the 4 symbols. It was a very high-end saint-level pill that was suitable for high-level saint-level experts to consume. Its effects were enough to make many high-level saint-level experts scramble for it. After consuming it, to a certain extent, it would increase one's yuan qi, raise one's cultivation base, and refine one's yuan qi, making it purer. There were a total of 10 4 symbols origin refining pills. Under normal circumstances, an 8th celestial stage of the immemorial realm cultivator would need 5 to 10 days to refine one pill. After refining the pill, their cultivation base would increase to a certain extent. However, the 4 symbols origin refining pill's main function wasn't to increase yuan qi, but to refine it. Hence, the increase in cultivation base wasn't obvious. As for the soul recovery pill, its name was simple and relatively common. It was a pill that could restore the power of the primordial spirit. There were also 10 pills in total. For a black iron primordial spirit, one soul recovery pill could restore 100% of the power of the primordial spirit. For a level 4 primordial spirit, one soul recovery pill could restore 50% of the power of the primordial spirit. For a level 5 primordial spirit, one soul recovery pill could restore 10%. Chumu's primordial spirit was now at the middle stage of the level 4 primordial spirit. One soul recovery pill could restore 50% of the power of his primordial spirit. It was very useful at a critical moment. Ever since he had entered the land of exile, he had been constantly raising his cultivation base. There had been no time or suitable environment for him to cultivate his primordial spirit. Hence, his primordial spirit hadn't improved at all. It had only strengthened slightly as his cultivation base increased. Against an opponent like a Dark Star Sword Saint, a level 4 primordial spirit was completely useless. At the very least, one needed a level 5 primordial spirit to use a level 5 primordial spirit attack secret technique to be effective. At this moment, Chu Mu was refining the first 4 symbols origin refining pill. The 4 symbols that surrounded him were formed by the aura of the pill and Chu Mu's own aura. It was a strange phenomenon of the pill. When the 4 symbols disappeared, Chu Mu had successfully refined the first 4 symbols origin refining pill. Instantly, the sword origin in his body surged, and the sword origin in his dantian increased. His cultivation base had broken through. Middle stage of the level 8 immemorial realm. Middle stage and infinitely close to the middle stage were 2 different concepts. With a stronger cultivation base, Chu Mu was confident that if Ing Wukong didn't die, Chu Mu wouldn't even need to use his silver god armor to kill him. Of course, this was also because Ing Wukong's strength wasn't as good as Lin Jintong's. In terms of offense, the Ghost Dragon sect was much weaker. As for Lin Jintong, he could be said to be the strongest opponent that Chu Mu had met so far. Perhaps in the future, Chu Mu would meet even stronger opponents, but the strongest one right now was Lin Jintong. My cultivation base has finally broken through. My sword origin has also been refined a little. Chu Mu said to himself after checking. The reason why Chu Mu chose to refine the 4 symbols origin refining pill at the peak of the Dragonhead Mountain was because he wanted to borrow the pressure from the strange place to help him refine the 4 symbols origin refining pill faster. Hence, he used less than a day to completely refine the pill. There are still 9 4 symbols origin refining pills left. However, the main use of the 4 symbols origin refining pill is to refine origin energy and not increase it. The reason why my cultivation base can break through after refining 1 pill is because my cultivation base has reached the limit of the initial stage. I don't need 3 months to break through. 1 pill is equivalent to saving me 3 months of time. However, the quality of my divine wilderness sword origin is extremely high and is incomparably pure. It far surpasses the sword origin of other sword cultivators in the 8th heaven of the immemorial realm. Hence, 1 4 symbols origin refining pill can't purify my sword origin by much. It was inevitable that the foundation was high and the improvement was low. No matter what, there was a huge difference between getting the pill and not getting it. 1 pill could save Chu Mu 3 months of effort. Especially when he was being chased by a strong opponent. Every bit of improvement in his cultivation base was extremely important, because the main use of the 4 symbols origin refining pill was to refine origin energy. Even though Chu Mu's sword origin was of high quality and the refining effect was poor, it allowed Chu Mu's cultivation base to stabilize. Forget it. I will refine all the remaining Ju Li 4 symbols origin refining pills and increase my cultivation base. Immediately, Chu Mu took out 3 pills and consumed them. He quickly refined them, and the aura around him spread. Another strange phenomenon appeared. Perhaps it was because he had consumed 3 pills at once. But the aura of the 4 symbols surrounding Chu Mu's body became stronger, and the 4 symbols' strange phenomenon became clearer. Under the powerful aura, Chu Mu sat cross-legged and refined the pills continuously. The improvement in his cultivation base allowed him to refine the pills even faster. 2 days later, he had successfully refined the 3 4 symbols origin refining pills and converted them into his cultivation base. His sword origin had increased, and it was almost equivalent to his 9 months of cultivation. Furthermore, it was slightly purer. As for the last 6 pills, Chu Mu simply took them all out and swallowed them in 1 gulp. The medicinal power of the 6 pills was much stronger than that of the 3 pills. If Chu Mu's sage body had not been close to the advanced LV5 realm, he would have been in great pain. With the medicinal power of the 6 pills, the strange phenomenon became clearer and more powerful. For days later, Chu Mu once again successfully refined all 6 pills. His cultivation had once again increased by a bit. After reaching the intermediate LV8 Wangu realm, Chu Mu's cultivation base increased by 9 4-symbols origin refining pills in 6 days. Even so, his cultivation base increased very slowly. There was still a long way to go before he reached the advanced LV8 Wangu realm. He would need at least dozens of 4-symbols origin refining pills to reach the advanced LV8 Wangu realm. After refining the pills and increasing his cultivation base, Chu Mu stood up and practiced his sword. He wanted to convert his cultivation base into strength as soon as possible. The 13 meteor strikes and the moon severing art were performed by him with both swords. Chu Mu had completely comprehended these 2 sword techniques and evolved them until they reached the ordinary legacy level. Chu Mu did not intend to continue comprehending them. It was enough for him to reach the ordinary legacy level. He only needed to practice for a while before he could integrate the heart and sword as one into the cloud-piercing sword form and the Dao cutter sword form. After practicing the sword techniques a few times, he stopped. The sword intent is the foundation of all the true intents that I have mastered. There is also the piercing true intent, the slashing true intent, the chi true intent, the vibration true intent, and the defense true intent. They correspond to the cloud-piercing sword form, the Dao cutter sword form, the heaven scar killing sword form, the Zhen Tian sword form, and the 6 Dao sword form. I will find another sword technique to cultivate. He focused on searching. There was almost no sword technique that was suitable for the vibration true intent, so he gave up for now. However, there were sword techniques that were suitable for the chi true intent and the defense true intent. After browsing, Chu Mu chose a sword technique that was suitable for the defense true intent. He did not lack offensive sword techniques now. The new sword technique that he chose was called the Lone Peak sword technique. It meant that there was a lonely mountain that stood tall on the earth. No matter how the wind blew, rain, lightning flashed, and thunder roared, it would not fall. This sword technique was a first-class sword technique. Moreover, it did not have many moves. There was only one move. A sword technique with only one move didn't seem difficult, but in reality, it was even harder to comprehend and practice. Of course, to Chu Mu, this wasn't difficult at all. Not long after, he comprehended the essence of the Lone Peak sword technique and began to practice it. Holding the sword and standing straight, in an instant, Chu Mu seemed to have become a lonely mountain peak. This move could be horizontal, vertical, straight, or slanted. However, no matter how it changed, it only had one purpose, which was to defend against external attacks. In theory, no matter which angle the attack came from, no matter how the attack changed, he could defend against it without hurting himself. Chapter 1816. A piece of news was sent out. Chu Mu was located on the Dragon Head Mountain. Instantly, the wind blew and clouds surged as the crowd rushed towards the Dragon Head Mountain. The Dragon Head Mountain will be your burial ground. The evil Dragon Palace's 3rd Elder Kaijinya's eyes were filled with killing intent as he muttered to himself. Evil Dragon's secret guards, head to the Dragon Head Mountain. The Dragon Head Mountain, huh? Last time it was our battle. This time, let's see how you deal with the evil Dragon Palace's revenge. Bai Chen said as he also set off towards the Dragon Head Mountain. Tu Qianjun, He Ju, Yan Qingya, Feng Feisha, and Long Shi also set off after receiving the news. Other than them, many other geniuses were unwilling to fall behind. The 7th star, unparalleled sword star. How should they deal with the evil Dragon Palace's revenge? Many people already knew that the evil Dragon Palace's 3rd Elder Kaijinya had brought 18 evil dragon secret guards to search for Chu Mu. The third elder Kaijinja might not be much of a threat, but the evil Dragon Saint slaughtering formation formed by the 18 evil Dragon Secret Guards was extremely powerful. To Bai Chen and the others, this was also a chance to observe Chu Mu's strength from a close distance. After entering the Black God's secret realm, everyone's cultivation had increased. Their strength was many times stronger than before, and they were full of confidence. However, when they saw Chu Mu's son kill the evil Dragon Palace's second hall master Wu Yuzi and break the evil Dragon Saint slaughtering formation, they were extremely shocked. They realized that Chu Mu's strength had quickly caught up, and he might not be the slightest bit inferior to them. They had long regarded Chu Mu as an opponent, an extremely strong opponent that they must pay attention to. On the 999 Zhang Dragon Head Mountain, Chu Mu was practicing his sword art. The solitary peak sword art, one sword peak, one branch outshines all others. Both sides gave people the feeling of a mountain peak standing above the earth. After practicing the solitary peak sword art a few times, Chu Mu started practicing the invisible ghost dragon body. That's right, after killing Ying Yukong, Chu Mu found a secret manual for the spectral dragon shadowless body in his spatial ring. The ghost dragon perplexing track, the ghost dragon shadowless body. These were the core cultivation techniques of the ghost dragon sect, and also the foundation of the ghost dragon sect. The reason why Ying Yukong was killed by Chu Mu that day was not because he did not use a secret technique, but because the secret technique he used was not to increase his strength, but to escape. However, he had never expected that Chu Mu would actually advance the moon's severing incantation at the critical moment and create the Moonfall sword. Furthermore, the Moonfall sword could actually imprison him for an instant. In terms of swordsmanship, Chu Mu was unparalleled, but in terms of footwork and body movement, he was relatively inferior. Firstly, there was no suitable footwork or body movement. Secondly, it was a matter of time and energy. Most of his time and energy was spent on swordsmanship. In the battle with Ying Yukong, he had personally experienced the mysteries of the ghost dragon perplexing track and the invisible ghost dragon shadowless body. Chu Mu was very tempted, now that he had found the secret manual for the invisible ghost dragon shadowless body in Ying Yukong's spatial ring. He naturally would not let it go. Unfortunately, he only had the invisible ghost dragon shadowless track and not the ghost dragon perplexing track. Otherwise, it would be even more wonderful. Early on the way to Mount Long's Ho on the flying shuttle, Chu Mu had split his attention between driving the flying shuttle and comprehending the invisible ghost dragon shadowless body. As expected of an almost top-notch inherited level movement technique, the content was cryptic and difficult to comprehend. Even with Chu Mu's comprehension, he was unable to comprehend it in a short period of time. Luckily, he had a cultivation manual left behind by Ying Yukong. With the combination of the two, Chu Mu was able to comprehend most of the mysteries of the invisible ghost dragon shadowless body in a short month. If the people of the ghost dragon sect were to know about this, who knew how shocked they would be. It should be known that those who were qualified to cultivate the invisible ghost dragon shadowless body were basically the upper echelons of the sect with real power. All of them were talented and had the resources of the ghost dragon sect. However, none of them were able to comprehend 70% to 80% of the mysteries within a short month. The best record was 3 years and only managed to comprehend 50% of the mysteries. 70% to 80% of the mysteries was already the limit that Chu Mu could comprehend. After all, he was himself and Ying Yukong was Ying Yukong. There were always some minute differences between the two people's body structures. This needed to be cultivated, practiced, and made compatible with the body. Every day, Chu Mu would take out a portion of his time to cultivate the invisible ghost dragon shadowless body. In a short period of 10 days, his attainment in the invisible ghost dragon shadowless body was comparable to some people in the ghost dragon sect who had cultivated for tens of years. This was due to his strong comprehension and in Wukong's lifetime of cultivation experience. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, another 3 days had passed. Chu Mu had been cultivating at the top of the Dragon's Head Mountain. After more than 20 days, Chu Mu had gradually adapted to the powerful force field at the top of the Dragon's Head Mountain. Today, Chu Mu noticed a flying shuttle in the distance. Finally, someone had arrived. Is he coming? Chu Mu muttered to himself and continued cultivating. More and more people arrived at the bottom of the Dragon's Head Mountain, and also saw the figure at the top of the Dragon's Head Mountain. After some time, the flying shuttle of the evil Dragon Palace stopped. The third elder, Kai Jinye, led the 18 evil dragon secret guards down from the flying shuttle. His gaze immediately locked onto the person at the top of the Dragon's Head Mountain. Chu Mu, you killed 2 of my evil Dragon Palace's palace masters, several of my evil Dragon Palace's geniuses, and 9 of my evil dragon's secret guards. This hatred is absolutely irreconcilable. Today is the day you die. The third elder, Kai Jinye, roared. The killing intent in his eyes pierced through the sky, piercing through 999 zhang, and landed on Chu Mu's body. It was like a sharp sword that wanted to pierce through Chu Mu. The hatred in his eyes was like a flame that could not be extinguished. The eyes of the 18 evil dragon secret guards were also filled with hatred and killing intent. Although they were nurtured by a secret technique, that secret technique was only to dig out their potential to the greatest extent and raise them to the peak of the 9-star saint level as quickly as possible. After that, they would not be able to improve anymore, and everything else would be the same as usual. As the evil dragon secret guards, they usually cultivated together and practiced the evil dragon saint slaughtering formation together. They had feelings for each other, just like brothers. When their brothers were killed, they would naturally feel angry and want to take revenge. I have been waiting for you for a long time. Chu Mu acted as if he did not hear the third elder, Kai Jinye's roar that was filled with killing intent. He only looked down at them with an indifferent gaze and an indifferent expression as he said those words calmly. What he did not know was that when he said those words, Kai Jinye and the others almost flew into a rage. The anger in their hearts suddenly increased by several times. You think you can live by staying at the top of the mountain? You are wrong. Kai Jinye roared. His hair and beard fluttered in anger, and his killing intent soared to the sky. The 18 evil dragon secret guards also released a terrifying killing intent. When they gathered together, it seemed to cause the wind and clouds to change. Evil dragon secret guards, listen to my orders. Set up the evil dragon saint slaughtering formation. Kai Jinye roared. Immediately, the 18 evil dragon secret guards quickly moved and stood according to the position of the evil dragon saint slaughtering formation. Each of them activated their own yuan qi, and their auras spread out. Their auras gathered together, and in the blink of an eye, the 18 evil dragon secret guards' auras and yuan qi were all connected. Vaguely, there seemed to be an evil dragon's roar that shook the heavens and the earth. Evil dragon saint slaughtering formation, gather in my body! Kai Jinye roared again and released his own aura without holding back. The second elder, third elder, fourth elder, and fifth elder of the evil dragon palace were not at the level of a dark star sword saint, but they were many times stronger than a normal 9-star saint. Their strength was almost at the level of Iron King Kong and Grey Pupil, who had died under Chu Mu's sword. Of course, because they had refined the incomplete evil dragon soul. Once they unleashed the incomplete evil dragon transformation, their strength would soar and reach the level of a dark star sword saint. The 18 evil dragon secret guards quickly moved. Their auras rose and mixed together, and a dark evil dragon that was almost 100 meters long appeared above them. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it roared. A powerful aura spread out in all directions. It was more than 3 times stronger than the dark evil dragon formed by the 9 evil dragon secret guards. It had reached Lin Jintong's level. However, Chu Mu's strength was not something that could be compared to when he fought with Lin Jintong. It was much stronger now. Immediately after, the dark evil dragon, which was almost 100 meters long, rushed into the sky. It then changed its direction and dived down with bared fangs and brandished claws. Thunder rumbled, and a terrifying energy fluctuation spread out. The aura released by the third elder, Kaijinya, was like a guiding light. He leaped into the sky and opened his arms with a calm expression. With a boom, the dark evil dragon that was almost 100 meters long attacked Kai Jinya's body. The rumbling sound was earth-shattering. Darkness spread out, but it was very dazzling. It was like a black sun. Wave after wave of increasingly powerful aura spread out from the black blazing sun. A kind of seemingly very cold light and heat also spread out in all directions. So scary. Retreat. The faces of the people who had rushed over to watch the battle changed. They all retreated, afraid that they would be affected by the black sun. With a rumbling sound, the earth seemed to be shaking. The cold and blazing aura spread out. Bai Qin and the other star sword saints in the distance also had serious expressions. The aura that the black sun gave out was too powerful. It was shocking. It had a feeling that it had surpassed the strength of a dark star sword saint. The black sun that was hundreds of meters long started to shrink. As it shrank, the black light became denser and purer, and the aura that it gave out became more powerful. It shrank, shrank. When it shrank to 10 meters, the aura had reached the limit of a dark star sword saint. However, it continued to shrink. It was just that the shrinking speed was getting slower and slower. It was as if it had to withstand a huge pressure for every meter it shrank. Roars continued to come out from the black sun. Everyone could tell that it was Kai Jinya's voice, but that voice seemed to contain endless pain, as if he was enduring great torment. Chapter 1817. The black sun shrunk to a diameter of 5 meters. The light and heat it emitted turned into a pure aura that rippled in all directions, suffocating everyone. Strong, this was simply too strong. At the same time, with Chu Mu's feet as the center, circles of ripples converged from outside to inside, causing Chu Mu's aura to grow. However, this movement was too small compared to the black sun, so most people didn't notice him. Divine, desolate, origin returning, secret technique. First, the other party used the evil dragon, holy slaughtering formation. Then, the dark evil dragon entered his body. His aura had already surpassed Lin Jintong's. Chu Mu could not help but treat him seriously. The divine, desolate origin returning secret technique required time. Coincidentally, the other party gave him this time. The ripples disappeared, and the divine, desolate origin returning secret technique was completed. His cultivation increased tenfold, and he became even stronger. Evil dragon transformation. A roar filled with pain came from the black sun with a diameter of 5 meters. It was as if it wanted to vent all the pain and suffering it had endured through this roar. Following the painful roar, the 5-meter-wide black sun shrunk rapidly. It was as if wind and thunder were rumbling as it shrunk inwards. In an instant, an incomparably intense black light forced everyone to close their eyes. Even an expert like Bai Chen could not look directly at it. The intense black light disappeared as quickly as it came. In just an instant, when people opened their eyes again, their faces were filled with shock and astonishment. The evil dragon palace's third elder, Kaijinya, had changed greatly. His head was still his original head, but his pupils were vertical, turning bright yellow with traces of blood. They were cold, sinister, cruel, and berserk. His hands had turned into the arms of a flood dragon. His sharp claws flickered with a cold light. His upper body was also covered in scales, but his lower body was still humanoid. His legs did not change at all. However, a tail grew out of his tailbone. It was close to 2 meters long. At the end of the tail was a serrated blade. It was a terrifying weapon. Kai Jinya's aura had also risen from the dark star level to the dark star level. Although he was not as strong as Wu Yuzi, he was still a dark star level expert. A pure black flood dragon was circling around him. The black flood dragon was only 2 meters long, but it gave people a feeling that it was made of flesh and blood, as if it was a real flood dragon and not formed from the power of the evil dragon saint slaughtering array. In fact, this 2-meter-long black flood dragon was formed from the power of the evil dragon saint slaughtering array. It was then channeled into Kai Jinya's body, and under the guidance of the evil dragon transformation, it was finally formed. Although it didn't look big, it was much more terrifying than the dark evil dragon from before. Kai Jinya's aura was equivalent to that of an ordinary dark, star-grade sword saint. However, the aura emitted by the 2-meter-long black WRM had already reached the peak of the dark star-grade. Chumu, your time has come. An inhuman roar sounded from Kai Jinya's mouth. It was like the roar of a flood dragon. He suddenly exerted strength in his legs and stomped on the ground, causing the earth to shake. A figure instantly charged towards the dragon's head mountain. His speed was extremely fast, and the strange force field of the dragon's head mountain did not seem to affect him at all. For a dark star level expert, the force field of the dragon's head mountain was negligible. Not long after, Kai Jinya brought the dark evil dragon and approached Chu Mu. What greeted him was a resplendent sword light that slashed down from the sky. The fierce sword light was frighteningly cold, and it could split the mountain with a single slash. Without any fear, Kai Jinya swung his tail, and the sharp blade at the end of his tail slashed and collided with Chu Mu's slash. At the same time, the 2-meter-long dark evil dragon let out a tyrannical roar. It stretched out its claws and clawed, directly tearing apart the force field of the dragon's head mountain. Even the stable space was left with faint black marks. Evil dragon claws. The second sword light slashed towards Chu Mu's face. The collision caused a powerful shockwave. Chu Mu quickly retreated to reduce the impact. He crossed his 2 swords, and the cross sword light pierced through the air. Then, under the vibration of his 2 swords, streaks of sword light broke through the sky like meteors. 26 sword light shot towards Kai Jinya and the dark evil dragon. Chu Mu was facing 2 opponents at the same time. Therefore, he had already equipped himself with the silver armor and activated the demon fighter bracers. The strength of his arms and the speed of his sword had obviously increased. Insignificant tricks. Is this all you've got? Kai Jinya roared. The side effect of the incomplete evil dragon transformation was even more obvious. He had to endure a kind of pain at all times. He had to roar and attack to reduce the pain in his body. Chu Mu's 2 claws struck out continuously. Claw shadows filled the air, and a cold light filled the surroundings, tearing everything apart. The claw shadows shattered, and so did the sword light. 14. Moonfall. Resplendent meteors, and the bright moon rose and fell. The area within 100 feet radius became the battlefield of the 2 people and the dragon. The battle was incomparably intense. Down below, everyone raised their heads and looked up. Their eyes were fixed on the screen, and they didn't even blink. Such a battle was rare to see. It was a rare opportunity. Chu Mu's 2 swords were each incomparably exquisite, causing people to exclaim in admiration. Compared to Chu Mu's sword techniques, Kai Jinya and the dark evil dragon's attacks weren't as exquisite, but their power was extremely shocking, especially the dark evil dragon. Each of its attacks was extremely powerful, even stronger than Lin Jintong's. Fight, fight, fight! Incomparably carefree. Chu Mu's cultivation was released to the fullest. His sword skills were also displayed to the fullest. Only with such an opponent could he improve himself. Only with such an opponent would he be able to bring him enough pressure. Only with such an opponent would he be able to improve his sword skills. The 13 meteor strikes and the moon slashing art were all displayed by Chu Mu's 2 swords. However, Chu Mu had not used the 15th strike and the 6th strike of the moon-slashing art Waning Moon. These two strikes were very powerful, and they had a special effect. They could only be used at the right time. Otherwise, if they failed, the opponent would be alerted, and it would not be effective. Streaks of sword chi and the sword light wreaked havoc. Under the destruction of the sword light, the hard ground was forcefully cut open. In the past, the Dragon Head Mountain was thousands of feet high. The top 10 feet was destroyed by the all-out battle of the two bright moon sword saints, and it became 999 feet high. The top of the Dragon Head Mountain was made of copper essence, and it was very hard. Even if an ordinary 9-star saint used his full strength, he would not be able to leave a mark on it. However, Chu-Mu's strength was at the level of a dark star sword saint. With the help of a secret technique, he had reached the peak of the dark star sword saint. Kai Jinye's evil dragon transformation had the strength of a normal dark star sword saint, and the 2-meter-long dark evil dragon also had the strength of a peak dark star sword saint. Every time their attacks hit the ground, they would break open the ground and leave scratches. Sword marks and claw marks crisscrossed, and they were deeply embedded in the ground. His heart sword was like one. Within a 5-meter radius, everything was sensed and grasped by Chu-Mu. None of the trajectories could escape his senses. That's right. After the battle with Ing Yukong, Shao Qin comprehended the 15th strike of the 13 meteor strikes and the waning moon from the moon-slashing technique. After this period of cultivation, Shao Qian's control of the heart sword as one increased from 4 meters to 5 meters. Within 5 meters, wherever his heart went, his sword would go. All attacks, unless they exceeded the heart and sword as one's perception, would be captured by Chu-Mu. From there, he would be able to better dodge or block and counterattack. Although the dark evil dragon was powerful, its speed was still within the limits of Chu-Mu's heart sword as one. Kai Jinye and the dark evil dragon worked together and attacked left, right, up, and down. The other dark star sword saints wouldn't be able to last long against such attacks. However, not only could Chu-Mu withstand it, but he could also counterattack. Every counterattack was powerful, and they had no choice but to use their full strength to deal with it. Kai Jinye knew that without the help of the dark evil dragon, he wouldn't be a match for Chu-Mu. He would be killed in less than 10 strikes if he battled with Chu-Mu. Chu-Mu observed as he attacked. I see. To a certain extent, the dark evil dragon is under Kai Jinye's influence. It's not an independent entity. Originally, the dark evil dragon was formed by the evil dragon saint slaughtering formation. It should have been controlled by the 18 evil dragon secret guardians at the peak of the 9-star saint level. However, because it had entered Kai Jinye's body, it had formed a connection with him. This connection had allowed Kai Jinye and the dark evil dragon to form a connection. After Chu-Mu's test, he confirmed that the dark evil dragon would automatically protect Kai Jinye. In other words, when Kai Jinye was in danger, the dark evil dragon would give up on attacking Chu-Mu and focus on protecting Kai Jinye. Since that's the case, I'll create an opportunity to injure the dark evil dragon, Chu-Mu thought. Although the dark evil dragon wasn't a true life form, it was formed by a formation. When it received an attack that exceeded its limits, it would be injured and affect the operation of the formation. With the heart sword as one, Chu-Mu's control was very precise. Slowly, he found the dark evil dragon's weakness. As expected of the complete evil dragon slaughtering holy formation, the sliver of weakness was faintly discernible and extremely hard to grasp. Chu-Mu attacked with his sword and created an opportunity. He immediately used the 14th strike and moonfall to kill Kai Jinye alone. Kai Jinye couldn't defend against such an attack. Kai Jinye's expression didn't change in the face of danger because he knew that the dark evil dragon would protect him. As expected, the dark evil dragon appeared in front of Kai Jinye and clawed at the 2-sword light. Unexpectedly, it was a feint. The dark evil dragon was fooled by the feint. 15th strike. He performed the most powerful attack of the 13 meteor strikes. The heart sword struck the dark evil dragon's weak point like a real meteor. It hit the dark, evil dragon's body, causing it to curl up in pain. As soon as it curled up, Kaijinya appeared behind it. 14 strike. The other sword turned into a meteor and shot towards Kaijinya. Kaijinya's expression changed drastically. He was incomparably terrified. Suddenly, an illusory figure shuttled through space and entered the range of the heart sword as one. A black sword light that was obscure but incomparably sharp pierced towards Chumu. The dark dragon guards in hiding made their move. Chapter 1818. The dark dragon guards were the most secretive force of the evil dragon hall. They were nurtured by the first palace master. Their purpose was to protect the evil dragon hall in times of danger and preserve the evil dragon hall's legacy. Throughout the generations, only the first palace master knew of the existence of the dark dragon guards. Only the first palace master had some authority to mobilize the dark dragon guards. This time, the first palace master of the evil dragon hall, Gu Xingdao, had sent the third elder to lead the 18 evil dragon secret guardians to take revenge and kill Chumu. He was afraid of failure, so he sent the leader of the dark dragon guards, Dark Dragon, to secretly assist. The dark dragon had sent out 2 dark dragon guards to secretly follow the third elder. They had unparalleled attainments in the art of concealment. Along the way, the third elder and the 18 evil dragon secret guards did not notice them at all. They did not discover any clues at all. To the dark dragon guards, they only had one purpose in coming out, which was to assist the third elder and the evil dragon secret guardians in killing Chumu. They were extremely skilled in concealment and had been hiding in the surroundings, waiting for the best time to attack. It was fine if they did not attack, but once they attacked, blood would be shed. This was the fighting style of the dark dragon guards. Even with Chumu's powerful spiritual perception, he did not discover the dark dragon guards hiding in the surroundings. Only when he created an opportunity to attack and used the 14th strike of the 13 meteor strikes to take Kai Jinya's life did the dark dragon guards suddenly appear. This was the moment when Chumu's sword was about to pierce the third elder. As long as he killed the third elder, the remaining dark evil dragon would not be able to resist Chumu. It would only take a bit of time for him to defeat it. After all, although the dark evil dragon was powerful, it was formed from a battle formation. Chumu was rather skilled in breaking formations. Unknowingly, the dark evil dragon was somewhat restrained. It had to be said that the dark dragon guard's grasp of timing was impeccable. With this attack, third elder Kaijinya would definitely die. However, Chumu would also have to face the dark sword of the dark dragon guards. The black sword light shuttled through the space cracks. Its speed was extremely fast. It seemed to ignore the distance between space and time. The moment it appeared, it arrived in front of Chumu. Gloomy, cold, and sharp, it caused Chumu's skin to tremble. An extreme chill rose from his tailbone and rushed to his head. The hair-raising feeling caused his expression to change greatly. This sword was too terrifying. It was impossible to describe it with words. Chumu smelled the breath of the abyss and saw the shadow of death. He was certain that this sword would be extremely difficult to defend against. It was very likely that if he insisted on killing Kaijinya, he would also be struck by this sword and be seriously injured or even killed. The strong sense of crisis was like the ringing of a great bell. Chumu's expression returned to normal, as cold as ice. His eyes flashed with a sharp light, restrained and became deep. The sword in his right hand was still stabbing out with the 14th attack. The sword in his left hand was instantly raised. It seemed slow, but the surrounding space seemed to be affected and became sluggish. The sword light of the eternal spiritual sword in his left hand seemed to transform into a bright moon that rose slowly, releasing a deep white light. It went from weak to strong, from weak to full, and then from full to weak. Then, the light went from bright to weak, from full to weak. The 6th art of the moon-severing art, waning moon. Chumu's waning moon had a unique mystery. It affected a small area of space and time, causing it to freeze for an instant. Even if it was only for a very short moment, not even 1/100th of a blink of an eye, it was enough for an expert like Chu Mu to react. "Don't kill me!" An incomparably terrified roar sounded. Kai Jinya's face was filled with shock and fear. His vertical pupils instantly shrank by a sliver. Facing the threat of death, Kai Jinya was terrified. Following that, someone appeared to attack Chu Mu. Kai Jinya thought that Chu Mu would give up on killing him, and he would be able to survive. He quickly adjusted himself. Unexpectedly, Chu Mu did not intend to give up on killing him. This sudden turn of events caused Kai Jinya's mind to fluctuate greatly. He lost his composure and cried out. Chu Mu remained unmoved. Sword light shot out, piercing through Kai Jinya's forehead and shattering his Yuan spirit. The evil dragon hall's third elder, Kai Jinya, died. The other sword light of waning moon fell. The frozen space had already recovered. The incoming sword of darkness instantly collided with the descending waning moon. There was no sound, as if it had been sucked in. Chu Mu only felt an indescribably gloomy coldness follow the eternal spirit sword, pass through the silver divine equipment, and instantly enter his arm. The blood in his arm seemed to instantly freeze. A bone-chilling coldness spread through his entire arm, reaching his shoulder. He practically lost all feeling in his arm. The terrifying, gloomy energy unstoppably pressed towards Chu Mu's heart. In the blink of an eye, half of his body seemed to freeze. Pure Yang. Without hesitation, Chu Mu activated the holy body's pure Yang energy. Like a raging fire burning his body, the pure Yang energy spread out and quickly filled his entire body. Pure Yang energy was the nemesis of practically all gloomy energy. However, this gloomy energy was too condensed and too tenacious. It was extremely terrifying. Even when activated by the pure Yang energy, it could not instantly disperse it. The Dark Dragon Guard's second sword strike arrived with the same gloomy coldness. Chu Mu quickly retreated, pulling away from the Dark Dragon Guard. At the same time, the Dark Evil Dragon recovered. Due to the Dark Dragon Guard's appearance, Chu Mu lost the opportunity to further injure the Dark Evil Dragon. The Dark Dragon Guard was a variable. Furthermore, its strength had reached the level of a Dark Star Sword Sage. Furthermore, that gloomy energy was extremely terrifying, making Chu Mu fear it. Now that Shao Qin had already killed the Evil Dragon Palace's third elder, he had already achieved half of his goal. Without hesitation, Chu Mu chose to retreat. With 1 foot in the air, Shao Qin immediately fell to the bottom of Dragon Head Mountain. Face up, he continuously attacked with his 2 swords. Many meteor-like sword lights shot into the sky, shooting towards the dark evil dragon and the dark sword light that was diving down. He did not seek to kill the enemy. He only wanted to block it. After landing, the Dark Dragon Guard immediately executed his movement technique and quickly left. All of this was within Chu Mu's expectations. However, another unforeseen event occurred. Another dark sword light silently pierced through the air behind Chu Mu, bringing with it a shocking, gloomy coldness and sharpness. This attack came from the second Dark Dragon Guard. The timing of the attack was impeccable. The expressions of Bai Chen and the others changed drastically. They could not help but exclaim. In such a situation, if they were in Shao Chen's place, they would most likely be injured. How should Chu Mu deal with this? Despite the shock in his heart, Chu Mu did not panic. Instead, he became increasingly calm. His heart, sword moved as one. The trajectory of the sword that suddenly appeared behind him was also within Chu Mu's grasp. However, while he could grasp it, he could not dodge it. Firstly, he was falling from behind and did not expect this sudden sword attack. Secondly, that sword attack was too fast. I can only take a risk now, Shao Qin said to himself. He was not sure if the silver divine equipment could block the other party's sword attack. Even if it could, it would not be able to defend against the cold energy. In a pincer attack, he could not afford to make any mistakes. Shadowless, ghostly dragon. Shout, Qin shouted. Only he could hear that voice. Chu Mu executed the shadowless, ghostly dragon body that he had been cultivating for some time. Instantly, a gray fog spread out in the surroundings, wrapping around Chu Mu. It seemed like a ghostly dragon was swimming around in the fog. Xiao Chen was in midair. As the gray fog spread out, it blocked the dark sword light, stabbing at him from behind, reducing its speed slightly. At the same time, Chu Mu's figure seemed to leave his original position at an incredible speed. The dark sword light missed, and the dark dragon guard's figure instantly vanished as well. After failing to hit, they immediately hid. This was the dark dragon guard's way of survival. They were like assassins. Even if Chu Mu used his heart sword as one, he could not detect them. Xiao Qin took a deep breath and executed the realm of silence, releasing his sword domain. As the two swords moved, they produced beams of light. They looked weak, but were actually resplendent. They reflected off and spread out in the surroundings, filling up the area within 5 meters. The light from the two swords seemed to contain a unique power, mysterious and unfathomable. Mirror flower, water moon. A deep voice rang out from Chu Mu's mouth. It contained a unique charm and fluctuation that affected the surroundings. The light brought about by the two swords became gorgeous and resplendent. It spread out and instantly turned into mirrors. It was unknown how many mirrors formed the world, but it was only within a radius of 5 meters. It was like the world in the mirror. Nothing could hide, and everything was revealed. The flowers in the mirror and the moon in the water were clearly visible. In the mirror flower, water moon, the figures of the two dark dragon guards appeared clearly. The concealment technique that they were so proud of seemed to have lost its effect at this moment. However, their concealment technique was still very shocking. The mirror flower, water moon only revealed their figures for an instant. That instant was enough. The reason why the dark dragon guards could rival a dark star sword saint was because of their extraordinary concealment technique, their powerful attacks, and the unblockable cold power. The combination of these allowed them to assassinate a dark star sword saint. However, their frontal combat ability and ability to deal with attacks were not that strong. When they appeared, it was as if they had been stripped naked and thrown into a crowd. Chu Mu's sword attacked again. The waning moon sword caught the two dark dragon guards the moment they appeared. Time and space stopped for a moment. Then, a blazing sword light pierced through the void like a shooting star. It was 14. The sword light was swift and pierced through the void. Just as the two dark dragon guards were about to disappear, they were pierced through. The sword light contained the power of true meaning that was released in their bodies, killing their primordial spirits. 15. Another sword slash was like a meteor falling from the sky towards the dark, evil dragon. Chu Mu's body also accelerated as he fell. He landed at the foot of Dragon Head Mountain and stomped his feet on the ground. With a boom, he burst out with terrifying speed and used Ghost Dragon's shadowless body. Without a sound, he quickly flew towards the 18 evil dragon secret guards. To many people, the 18 dark dragon guards were indeed powerful experts. However, in front of Chu Mu, they were as weak as chickens, especially when the dark evil dragon could not return in time. Sword light flashed, and the massacre reappeared. Chapter 1819. The 2-meter-long dark evil dragon swooped down at its fastest speed, charging at Chu Mu. Before it got close, it seemed to suffer an invisible and powerful blow. It turned into a black mist and suddenly scattered. The 18 evil dragon's secret guards all died under Chu Mu's sword. Without their support, the dark evil dragon naturally could not continue to exist. Chu Mu obtained another 21 spatial rings. This battle was extremely dangerous. It was several times more dangerous than the battle with Lin Jintong. His opponent was stronger than Lin Jintong, and there were 2 dark dragon guards hiding in the dark. They were waiting for the best opportunity to strike and kill him in one strike. If it were any other star-grade demonic genius, even if they did not die, they would be in a sorry state in such a dangerous situation. However, Chu Mu relied on his own ability to turn danger into safety. In the end, he counterattacked and annihilated the enemy. Even so, Chu Mu had exhausted almost all his strength. His spiritual energy was also greatly depleted. Fortunately, he executed the divine wilderness returning technique in time. Otherwise, he would only have recovered a small portion of the sword god's descent technique's power. He would not have been able to sustain such an intense battle, and the consequences would have been unpredictable. No matter what, Chu Mu was the winner in the end. The evil dragon palace suffered heavy losses once again. Wherever he looked, everyone retreated, not daring to look at Chu Mu. Strong, he was simply too strong. Putting themselves in his shoes, if they faced such danger, could they deal with it as calmly as Chu Mu and turn danger into safety? They could not. It was precisely because they knew they could not that they understood how terrifying Chu Mu was. Xiao Chen quickly took out medicinal pills and tossed them into his mouth to speed up the recovery of his sword energy. Then he executed the phantom dragon body and silently turned into a shadow, quickly fleeing into the distance. Xiao Chen changed locations every time he fought, making it harder for the other party to find him. This gave him enough time to recover and reflect on this battle, absorbing and improving himself, using battle to nurture battle, strengthening oneself. No one stopped Chu Mu when he left. This was because there was no reason or strength to stop him. Although the evil dragon palace's bounty was good, one needed to be alive to enjoy it. Greed that exceeded one's own strength would only push oneself into the abyss of no return. After leaving Dragon Head Mountain, Chu Mu's sword origin had recovered a portion due to the effects of the elixir. He took out a flying shuttle and prepared to leave in it. Suddenly, a sharp light shot out from his eyes like a sword, piercing through the void and landing somewhere. His aura became fierce, and with the blazing glory spiritual sword in his hand, he pointed it out, sword chi rampaging. "I don't mean any harm," a somewhat fleeting voice sounded. Soon after, a figure seemed to walk out of nothingness. With layers of ripples, he appeared in front of Chu Mu and pointed his sword at him. Chu Mu knew that the ripples were a kind of spatial energy fluctuation. This kind of concealment method, combined with the power of space, did not seem to be inferior to the hidden dragon guards from before. If he had not taken out the flying shuttle to enter at the end, the other party would have inadvertently leaked a trace of aura and been detected by him. This person seemed to have walked out of the void. He was dressed in a long black robe and had a black mask on his face. Only a pair of pitch-black eyes could be seen. This person exuded a mysterious feeling from head to toe. "What can I do for you?" Chu Mu's long sword was still pointed straight ahead. His sword aura was sharp as it locked onto the opponent from afar. At this moment, his sword origin had yet to fully recover, and he had stopped using the divine wilderness origin returning technique. From the opponent's spatial concealment technique, it was definitely an expert. If they fought, it would probably bring a lot of pressure to him. "Sir, I don't mean any harm." The mysterious black-robed man opened his mouth again, his voice slightly hoarse and fleeting. "If I had any ill intentions, I would have already secretly attacked. In that case, what is your purpose for looking for me? Speak." Chu Mu said, his sword hanging down, but he did not relax his vigilance at all. "I am called Gue Wu, the master of the Ghost Dragon sect." The mysterious black-robed man stated his name and identity. Chu Mu's pupils shrank. "I also know that the first deputy master of my sect, in Mukong, died under your sword. However, that day he used his own identity and not the identity of the sect to kill you. In the end, he was killed by you. He was not strong enough, and I will not avenge him." "Wise choice." Chu Mu said, It was indeed a wise choice. Otherwise, even the master of the Ghost Dragon sect might not be able to deal with Chu Mu, and the consequence of not being able to kill Chu Mu was to suffer his revenge. At that time, the entire Ghost Dragon sect might be destroyed. I think so too. The master of the Ghost Dragon sect, Wu, seemed to agree. Since it's not revenge, then what can I do for you? Chu Mu asked again. Do you know that the Ghost Dragon shadowless body needs to be combined with the Ghost Dragon perplexing track to unleash its full potential? Wu did not answer Chu Mu's question. So, you intend to give me the cultivation method of the Ghost Dragon perplexing track? Chu Mu said in a slightly mocking tone. His sword origin was constantly recovering, and the more time passed, the more it would recover. That's right. Wu's unexpected answer stunned Chu Mu. Shortly after, Wu took out a scroll and threw it to Chu Mu. Chu Mu wrapped his sword origin and grabbed at the air. Looking at it, he saw the words Ghost Dragon, Perplexing Track written on it. What's the purpose? Chu Mu said as he opened the scroll. He immediately confirmed that this was the content of the Ghost Dragon Perplexing Track. Being unaccountably solicitous was definitely not a coincidence. There must be a purpose. Sir, you are now a thorn in the side of the Evil Dragon Palace. The successive losses of the Evil Dragon Palace are all because of you. Therefore, they will definitely not let this matter rest. Wu said. The Evil Dragon Palace's first palace master, Guxingdao, is a bright moon sword saint. As for the Evil Dragon Palace's first elder, he has always been very mysterious and rarely acts. Legend has it that he already possessed the strength of a dark star sword saint several hundred years ago. After several hundred years, who knows how strong he has become. In addition, the two experts who secretly acted in the battle on Dragon Head Mountain today are also from the Evil Dragon Palace. They are an extremely secretive existence of the Evil Dragon Palace, the Dark Dragon Guards. Wu continued. The Dark Dragon Guards are a force that the Evil Dragon Palace has secretly cultivated. There are 6 of them in total, and each of them has the strength to assassinate a Dark Star Sword Saint. Especially the leader of the Dark Dragon Guards, Dark Dragon, who can directly confront a Dark Star Sword Saint and assassinate a Peak Dark Star Sword Saint. Hearing Wu's words, Chu Mu's expression turned grave. 4 Dark Dragon Guards that could rival a Dark Star Sword Saint, a mysterious First Elder, a Bright Moon Sword Saint, and the First Palace Master, Guxingdao. The Evil Dragon Palace's strength was still very strong. These are not the full strength of the Evil Dragon Palace. According to what I know, there are still several First Palace Masters and First Elders who have retired. At the very least, they have the strength of a Dark Star Sword Saint. Wu continued, as if he was very familiar with the Evil Dragon Palace. After saying so much, your goal can't be to join hands with me to deal with the Evil Dragon Palace, right? Chu Mu asked. Talking to smart people really saves a lot of trouble. Wu smiled and said, The Evil Dragon Palace is the #1 force in Zhanlong City under the Zhanlong House. If the Evil Dragon Palace no longer exists, my Ghost Dragon sect can take the opportunity to rise. Cultivation resources were very important. The stronger the force, the more resources they would occupy. If the Evil Dragon Palace was destroyed, then the resources that the Evil Dragon Palace occupied would be empty. At that time, the majority of the resources would be occupied by the Zhanlong House, and a portion would be occupied by other forces. The Ghost Dragon sect's strength was second only to the Evil Dragon Palace, so they naturally had great confidence in occupying the other portion of the resources. With the Ghost Dragon sect's strength, if they obtained more resources, their strength would increase. And at that time, they would directly replace the Evil Dragon Palace's position. Under normal circumstances, the Ghost Dragon sect didn't have the strength to fight against the Evil Dragon Palace. However, at this moment, because of Chu Mu, Wu saw hope. Let me make things clear first. The way to cooperate with you to deal with the evil dragon palace is to provide the cultivation method of the ghost dragon perplexing track. At the same time, you can make some requests, such as what resources you need, and my ghost dragon sect can provide them. Gue Wu said directly, however, my ghost dragon sect won't directly participate in dealing with the evil dragon palace. We will only act at the last moment when the evil dragon palace is doomed and deal a fatal blow. A small investment, a huge profit, Chu Mu said. We both take what we need. Gue Wu smiled. It sounded like a small investment to the ghost dragon sect. But after thinking about it carefully, Chu Mu wouldn't lose out. Because whether the ghost dragon sect wanted to deal with the evil dragon palace or not, the evil dragon palace wouldn't let Chu Mu go. This was a fact. There was only life and death between Chu Mu and the evil dragon palace. There was no third path. Therefore, the cooperation method proposed by Gue Wu wasn't unacceptable. Of course, this method was also beneficial to the ghost dragon sect. If Chu Mu succeeded, the evil dragon palace would be destroyed, and Gue Wu would get what he wanted. On the other hand, if Chu Mu failed, the ghost dragon sect would only lose some resources. After weighing the pros and cons, the cooperation method proposed by Gue Wu was beneficial to the ghost dragon sect. But it was also beneficial to Chu Mu. At least, he could cultivate the ghost dragon perplexing track and improve his battle strength. Moreover, he could request some resources to better assist his cultivation. I need treasures to improve my cultivation, and also treasures to refine my saint body. Chu Mu directly requested, indicating that he agreed to cooperate with the other party. All right, Gue Wu also agreed without hesitation. I have 2 bottles of 4-image energy forming pills and 1 bottle of 4-image energy refining pills, as well as a bottle of ancient saint-breaking pill. I'll give them to you first. After that, I'll mobilize the sex forces to collect more pills and treasures. Gue Wu said, waving his hand. 4 jade bottles appeared and flew towards Chu Mu. Chu Mu didn't hesitate to take all 4 bottles of pills. The next time we meet, I'll provide you with more pills, Gue Wu said. Then he took a step back, and circles of spatial ripples appeared around him. His figure disappeared into the space, and his remaining aura also disappeared rapidly. Chapter 1820. The battle on Dragonhead Mountain had once again established Chu Mu's fame. Unparalleled sword star, unparalleled sword star. His name was worthy of its name and was enough to intimidate the weak. As for the evil dragon palace, to outsiders they had only lost a 3rd elder and 18 evil dragon, secret guardians. In reality, they had also lost 2 dark dragon guards. The cultivation of the dark dragon guards was 100 times more difficult than the evil dragon, secret guardians. Thus, the evil dragon palace only had 6 dark dragon guards. Chu Mu had killed 2 of them in an instant. This loss was even greater than the losses on the surface. It could be said that the evil dragon palace had suffered another serious blow. Their overall strength had decreased by quite a bit. When the evil dragon palace's first palace master and the others learned of this news, the fury in their hearts was indescribable. Sect master, let me go. The first elder stood up and said in a low voice, Go. Gu Xingdao's expression and tone were ice cold. After the great elder bowed, a black shadow seemed to float past, like a heavy ink brush brushing across a piece of white paper. Soon after, it disappeared. The mysterious first elder had left the evil dragon palace for the first time after cultivating for several hundred years. Only he himself knew how strong he was. Even the first palace master, Gu Xingdao, did not know. Second elder, I'll leave the matters of the palace to you for now. Gu Xingdao instructed before turning into a streak of light and disappearing. He also wanted to go out. There was no other way. After suffering 2 serious injuries, the evil dragon palace's strength had been severely damaged. Moreover, their reputation had also been greatly damaged. The hatred he had for Chu Mu could not be washed away. Whether the first elder could find Chumu or kill Chumu was still unknown. Thus, it was safer for him to act personally. A mysterious first elder whose strength was unknown and a bright moon sword saint. Would Chumu be able to survive the pursuit of these two? The exquisite flying shuttle flew at high speed, heading deeper into the land of exile. The pursuit of the evil dragon palace was within his expectations. However, Chumu did not know who was pursuing him. While driving the shuttle, he checked the 21 space rings. Aside from the evil dragon palace's third elder's spatial ring, the other 20 spatial rings were practically useless to Chumu. After all, a group of evil dragon secret guardians and 2 dark dragon guards would not carry any treasures with them. Chumu checked the 4 bottles of pills given to him by Ghost Dragon Sect Master Goewu. Chumu had already consumed the 4 symbols origin refining pill, so he was very clear about its effects. However, he still wanted to confirm if it had been tampered with. Although Chumu was still unable to refine a pill on the level of the 4-symbol yuan refining pill with his current alchemy skills, it was not difficult for him to check if the pill had been tampered with by combining his soul power and other factors. There were a total of 40 pills in the 4 bottles. He checked them one by one, and after confirming that there was nothing wrong, he packed them up again. The 4 symbols origin transformation pill and the 4 symbols origin refining pill belonged to the same line of medicinal pills, and they were like cousins. The 4 symbols origin transformation pill's main effect was to increase origin energy, and its secondary effect was to refine origin energy. This point just happened to be different from the 4 symbols origin refining pill, and the two could completely have the effect of complementing each other. 1 4 symbols energy refining pill is equivalent to 3 months of my cultivation. Then, the effects of the 4 symbols origin refining pill will only be stronger. However, I wonder how much it will increase? Chumu thought to himself. The ancient saint's breakthrough pill was a pill used to refine the saint body. The so-called breakthrough meant to break through one's limits. After mastering the energy unification technique, sword origin energy and physique energy could be perfectly combined. Therefore, whether it was increasing sword origin energy or saint body, it would be of great help to Chumu's strength. Comparatively speaking, the saint body was only at the mid-stage of the 5th rank, close to the late stage. On the other hand, sword origin's cultivation was higher. Of course, increasing the level of the saint body would be more difficult. Between the same level of saint body and yuan power, the cultivator of the saint body would usually be more powerful. The flying shuttle quickly entered the land of exile. Along the way, Chumu would switch to another flying shuttle. With the addition of the 3rd elder's flying shuttle, it would be even easier to confuse him. When the great elder of the evil dragon hall arrived at Dragon Head Mountain, Chumu had already left, deep into the land of exile, an abandoned sinner's cave. Not bad. It's perfect for a place to cultivate, Chumu said joyfully after he finished exploring. Sinners' caves were usually more hidden. This cave was abandoned, and its concealment was not good. That was why Chumu had discovered it. After exploring it, he discovered that it was a cave with only 1 floor. Chumu went to the depths of the cave and laid down seals in the surroundings. His cultivation had increased very quickly, and so had his strength. He did not have the time to study the Tao of seals. Thus, his current attainments in seals could not keep up with his strength. Compared to his opponents, they could only serve as a simple warning. After laying down the seals, Chumu sat down cross-legged. He took out 4 bottles of pills and placed them beside him. Let's refine the 4 forms origin pill first. He took out a 4 forms origin pill and tossed it into his mouth. He carefully sensed the medicinal energy within. It turned into a clear stream and flowed down his throat into his stomach, becoming warm. His lower abdomen was warm and very comfortable. His sword origin moved, driving the medicinal energy through his meridians. As soon as he did so, Chumu felt that the four forms origin pill's growth in sword origin clearly surpassed that of the four forms origin refining pill. Because he wasn't in a place like Dragon Head Mountain, there wasn't any external pressure from a powerful force field. Therefore, Chumu spent 2 full days before he finished refining the first 4-image energy transforming pill. As expected of a high-end pill, Chumu could feel his sword origin increasing significantly after refining it. It was also very stable. This was because the 4 forms origin pill had a small refining effect. Based on this efficiency, I should be able to reach late stage 8th heavenly layer after refining 2 bottles of 4 forms origin pill. Chumu thought to himself. Once his cultivation reached late stage 8th heavenly layer, his strength would increase as well. He continued refining. 1 4 forms origin pill took about 2.5 days to refine. A total of 24 forms origin pills took Chumu 50 days. After refining all of them, his cultivation base broke through as he had expected. Late stage 8th heavenly layer. This kind of pill was very high-end and precious. Ordinary factions did not have the qualifications to take it out. Even Guewu would not be able to take out 2 bottles easily. However, in order to make Chumu stronger and better deal with the evil Dragon Palace, Guewu had no choice but to spend some money. 4 ordinary 8th heavenly layer cultivators. 1 bottle of 4 forms origin pill was enough to raise their cultivation from early stage 8th heavenly layer to late stage 8th heavenly layer. However, Chumu's Dantian had undergone a transformation, and his sword origin was extremely pure. Every time he raised his cultivation base, he would need 10 times more energy than an ordinary cultivator. This was completely out of Guewu's expectations. He thought that 2 bottles of 4 forms origin refining pill and 2 bottles of 4 forms origin refining pill would be enough for Chumu to reach peak 8th heavenly layer and stabilize his cultivation base. The current Chumu could contend against peak Dark Star rank experts. If his cultivation reached peak immemorial 8th sky and stabilized, he would be able to defend himself against Bright Moon rank sword saints even if he could not defeat them. As for the bottle of ancient saint breaking limit pills, Guewu had prepared extra. After all, Chumu had never revealed his saint body before. His origin energy cultivation base was much higher than his saint body cultivation base. Naturally, no one would think that he was a saint body cultivator. Then, Chumu put away the bottle of 4 forms origin refining pill. The amount of energy needed to raise his cultivation base from late stage 8th heavenly layer to peak 8th heavenly layer was much higher. A bottle of 4 forms origin refining pill was not that effective. The amount of origin energy he could gain from refining the pill was very limited. Next, I will refine the ancient saint breaking limit pill. Taking out an ancient saint breaking limit pill, Huang Xiaolong saw that the pill was golden red in color. It was round and flawless, and it emitted waves of heat. When he threw the pill into his mouth, it turned into a boiling liquid. It was as if he had swallowed lava. His esophagus was on fire, and waves of heat spread out. Soon, Chumu's skin turned red. Steam rose from his body, and white smoke rose into the air. The intense heat spread throughout his body, and his blood started to boil. The temperature in his body rose higher and higher. His blood was about to evaporate, and his organs were boiling. Even his bones were showing signs of softening. The terrifying heat spread out, and the ground that Chumu was sitting on began to melt. This was a black iron, or that was extremely resistant to heat. It melted easily, and this was only because of the heat emitted from Chumu's body. The ancient saint breaking limit pill was like refining a golden body. The ancient saint breaking limit pill was a pill that was suitable for high-level sacred realm experts. It was suitable for a level 6 sacred body, and it had a tempering effect on a level 7 sacred body. However, it was barely enough for Chu Mu's level 5 sacred body. If his sacred body didn't have 4 attributes and was more resilient than a sacred body of the same level, he wouldn't be able to withstand the heat, especially the eternal energy and pure yang energy. Their effects were obvious. They could resist the high temperature, and he wouldn't be completely melted. 3 days and 3 nights. After 3 days and 3 nights, the effect of the ancient saint breaking limit pill gradually weakened. On the 5th day, the temperature dropped further. On the 10th day, the ancient saint breaking limit pill was completely absorbed by Chu Mu's body. Under the high temperature, Huang Xiaolong's whole body was in pain. It felt as if his whole body was melting, and it wasn't a good feeling. However, after enduring it, Chu Mu could feel that his body was full of vitality and his bones were tougher. Late level 5. Huang Xiaolong sensed that his sacred body had broken through to late level 5, and his strength had increased by a lot. There are still 9 ancient saint breaking limit pills left. They should be enough for my sacred body to break through to level 6. Chu Mu thought to himself. Once his sacred body reached level 6, his strength would be greatly enhanced when combined with the sword origin of the late level 8 immemorial realm. Chapter 1821. Just where did Chu Mu go? This was not only the question of the evil Dragon Hall's great elder, but also the question of the evil Dragon Hall's first hall master, Gu Xingdao, and countless others. The Land of Exile did not have an organization that sold information for a living. It was said that there had been one a long time ago, but because they had leaked information about a terrifying expert's identity without permission, the expert's family had been killed. Under the expert's fury, the organization had been completely destroyed. From then on, there had never been another organization related to it. Of course, all the sects and forces, as long as their strength was not bad, basically had their own related halls, which were responsible for the investigation and analysis of information. However, the Land of Exile was not large, but it was not small either. Moreover, there were many places where cultivators rarely set foot in. Thus, the use of information in the Land of Exile was not that obvious. Chu Mu had changed flying shuttles again, purposefully hiding his tracks. It was even harder to find him deep in the Land of Exile. He was hiding in a sinner's cave, and it was even abandoned. Wanting to find him was no different from finding a needle in a haystack. For example, some hidden experts did not intend to hide from the world. Instead, they had offended some faction and were hunted to the point of having nowhere else to go. They had no choice but to hide. After hiding for a long time, they would naturally be thought of as hidden experts. In the Land of Exile, as long as one had a certain amount of strength and purposefully hid, there was at least a 40 to 50% chance of success. Right now, the evil Dragon Hall's great elder and the others were worried that Chu Mu would wholeheartedly hide and not appear again. It would be very difficult for them to find him. With Chu Mu's talent, if he was given enough time, he would bring a calamity to the evil Dragon Hall if he appeared again in a few decades or 100 years. Search, search, search. They had to find Chu Mu's location and kill him to prevent any future troubles. In the blink of an eye, almost 5 months had passed since Chu Mu had established his supreme reputation in the Battle of Dragon Head Mountain and vanished without a trace. 5 months was nothing to those in seclusion, but it was a period of time for those who were constantly roaming the world. It was enough time for many things to happen. Recently, many hidden experts have appeared one after another. Sword Monarch Shocking Hibernation. Feng Wui went around challenging experts. He killed all the experts he defeated and captured their primordial spirits. After the younger generation reached the 7 great stars, another person has reached the dark star level. This Feng Wui might become the 8th star. Compared to this, I'm more curious about where the unparalleled sword star, Chu Mu, has been in the past 5 months. There's no trace of him at all. It's as if he just disappeared. I'm curious too. Could it be that they're afraid of the evil Dragon Palace's pressure and have started to live in seclusion like those people in the past? That's possible. With his talent, if he hides for a few decades or 100 years, his cultivation will increase and he will become even more powerful. At that time, he will come out and seek revenge from the evil dragon palace. The more everyone talked about it, the more likely it became. What a pity. I was originally looking forward to the exciting battle between the unparalleled Sword Star and the evil dragon palace. In the Ironwing Battalion, Zheng Taijun heaved a sigh of relief. Originally, after Chu Mu became famous, he was still worried about Chu Mu's revenge. After all, he had tried to kill Chu Mu back then. Perhaps he, Zheng Taijun, had become a peak 9-star saint, and his strength was stronger than an ordinary peak 9-star saint. However, an expert who could kill a dark star sword saint was not in existence he could fight against. If Chu Mu wanted to take revenge, he could probably kill him with one strike. After that, Chu Mu had not come to find him for revenge. Until now, it was even harder to find him. After disappearing for 5 months, Zheng Taijun finally heaved a sigh of relief. The anxiety in his heart had disappeared. Quickly returning to his own tent, Zheng Taijun planned to have a good rest. In the past few years, he had almost never had a good rest. He had always been worried about Chu Mu's revenge. His heart was in a mess. Even with his extraordinary peak 9-star saint level strength, he still felt mentally exhausted. However, as soon as he entered the tent, Zheng Tiejuan's eyes narrowed. A cold light shot out, and a powerful aura slashed out like a sword. A low shout rang out, filled with fierceness and deterrence. Who is it? One had to know that this was his personal tent. Without his permission, no one could enter as they pleased. Battalion Commander Zheng, I haven't seen you for 10 years. Your strength has increased quite a bit. The figure with his back facing Zheng Taijun spoke. His calm voice fell from the sky like thunder, directly striking Zheng Tiejuan's head. His entire body trembled as he stared blankly ahead. An indescribable fear emerged from the depths of his heart, turning into a cold current that swept through his entire body. It was as if he had been frozen stiff, unable to move. Although he hadn't heard this voice for more than 10 years, he still recognized it. It was the person who had caused him to be unable to relax all these years. He had always been under a kind of tense pressure. Chu Mu, the person who was hunted down by the evil dragon palace with a bounty on his head, was still alive and well. Moreover, he had killed many experts of the evil dragon palace, causing them serious injuries. After that, he had disappeared for 5 months and was thought to be a hidden monster. Don't be afraid. I won't kill you, Chu Mu said. Zheng Tiejuan's fear was inevitable. He was an expert, second only to Dark Star Sword Saints and the battalion commander of the Ironwing camp. He controlled an entire camp and had tens of thousands of people under him. If he died, everything would turn to nothing. Hearing Chu Mu's words, Zheng Taijun seemed to let out a sigh of relief. If the other party said that he wouldn't kill him, there was no need to lie to him. After all, the other party was a powerful Dark Star Sword Saint. In the land of exile, there were very few Sword Saints with 3 major battle powers. Normally, they were only found in the 5 major cities, and only a few powerful forces, including the City Lord's mansion, had them. There were also some Sword Saints with 3 major battle powers among the free sword cultivators, but they were even rarer. Moreover, there were almost no bright moon Sword Saints. The person who founded the Ironwing camp was also a Dark Star Sword Saint. He was Zheng Tiejuan's ancestor. Generation after generation, the Ironwing camp was worse than the previous generation. It was rare for a Dark Star Sword Saint to appear. If there's anything you need me, Zheng Taijun, to do, just say it. Zheng Taijun almost patted his chest and said, if the other party didn't kill him, then the other party definitely didn't come here to reminisce about the past. Moreover, there was nothing to reminisce about. You're smart. Chu Mu smiled. In the past, Zheng Taijun could finish him with a single sword strike. Now he could finish Zheng Taijun with a single sword strike. The increase in his strength had also increased his horizons. There wasn't much hatred between him and Zheng Taijun. Therefore, to Chu Mu, it didn't matter if he killed Zheng Taijun or not. Of course, he did come to find Zheng Taijun for another purpose. I want to hold an auction in the Iron Wing camp. Chu Mu said, there will only be 2 treasures for auction, 2 evil dragon swords. Spread the news that the auction will be held in a month. Hearing this, Zheng Taijun's expression changed greatly. Holding an auction was definitely a good thing for the Iron Wing camp, as it could increase the fame and prestige of the camp. Of course, it was also a challenge. After all, they had to maintain order. If there was any problem, it would not only increase the fame and prestige of the camp, but also suffer a heavy blow. However, when he heard about the treasures to be auctioned, Zheng Taijun's face turned ashen. The evil dragon sword. He was very clear that this was the sword of the evil Dragon Hall master. It was a spiritual sword, and its value was definitely very high. That was true, but the evil Dragon Hall, that was the evil Dragon Hall. The evil Dragon Hall only needed to mobilize a little bit of their power to annihilate a camp like the Iron Wing camp dozens of times. If he auctioned the evil dragon sword in the Iron Wing camp, the Iron Wing camp would be targeted by the evil Dragon Hall. It would be a disaster. Are you going to do it or not? Chu Mu's tone was indifferent, but it made Zheng Taijun break out in cold sweat. Should he do it or not? Zheng Taijun was struggling in his heart. If he did it, he might end up offending the evil Dragon Hall. He didn't dare to imagine how bad the consequences would be if he offended the evil Dragon Hall. However, if he didn't do it, he might die here today. He weighed the pros and cons. In the end, Zheng Taijun made his decision. I'll do it. Zheng Taijun's face was ashen. He gritted his teeth, and the veins on his forehead bulged. These 2 words seemed to have exhausted all his strength. If he didn't do it, he would die now. If he did it, he might still have a chance to live. Wise. Remember, I don't want the hearts of sinners. I only want treasures that can raise Yuan Li or refine the saint body. Chu Mu smiled faintly. Soon after, his figure disappeared in front of Zheng Taijun. The difference between their levels was too great. Zheng Taijun couldn't see how Chu Mu left. The auction would be held in a month. Since he had decided to do it, Zheng Taijun threw caution to the wind. No matter if he did it well or not, he would offend the evil Dragon Hall. Since they were both offending the evil Dragon Hall, why not do his best? Perhaps if there was a chance, not only would the Iron Wing camp be fine, but its reputation would also soar. Under Zheng Taijun's orders, although the others did not understand why he made such a decision, they still strictly carried out his orders and quickly spread the news. When everyone heard the news, they were all stunned. Auction? Only 2 treasures, and the evil dragon swords, the swords of the 2 evil Dragon Hall's palace masters? What was going on? Was the Iron Wing camp seeking their own deaths? To think that they dared to do such a thing. However, the next piece of news was that the one holding the auction was not the Iron Wing camp, but Chu Mu. Chu Mu. The moment this name appeared, it immediately triggered a storm. Just as many people thought that Xiao Qin had hidden himself, he suddenly appeared again, publicly auctioning the swords of the evil Dragon Hall's palace masters. This is a provocation to the evil Dragon Hall. Is he worried that he won't die quickly enough? No, I think that Chu Mu definitely has enough confidence to make such a decision. His goal is to counterattack. He has been chased by the evil Dragon Hall all this time. Now he wants to counterattack. Auctioning the evil dragon swords is the first step of his counterattack. Although it won't damage the evil Dragon Hall's strength, it can greatly damage the evil Dragon Hall's prestige and weaken their influence. No matter what, this method is extremely crazy. Chapter 1822. Bastard, it's time for you to die. In the restaurant, a mysterious black-robed man snorted angrily. Then, as if a patch of black had passed through the air, his figure disappeared. No one noticed this. You finally appeared. Let's see where you can run to this time. The first palace master, Gu Xingdao, who had been searching for 5 months to no avail and was preparing to return to the evil dragon hall, immediately changed directions when he heard the news and rushed toward the Iron Wing camp. Even though he was rushing over at full speed, he was still quite a distance away from the Iron Wing camp. It was unknown whether he could make it in a month. Once the news spread out, it quickly swept through the 5 major cities and nearly 100 camps. Everyone knew about it. Many experts hurried over. A portion of them came to watch the show. This was the first time the unparalleled Sword Star had taken the initiative to fight back against the evil Dragon Hall. A small portion of them came for the evil dragon sword. The evil Dragon Hall was indeed very powerful, but not everyone was afraid of it. Other than the 5 cities, there were 4 other forces that were not inferior to the evil Dragon Hall. As for the evil dragon sword, those who knew their stuff were even more clear. It was a spiritual sword that contained the soul of an evil dragon. The swords of the 3 palace masters of the evil Dragon Hall were all called evil dragon swords. They were top-notch sacred swords that were forged with a bit of copper essence. After 100 years of nurturing, a complete evil dragon soul was smelted into them, and the spiritual sword was forged into the evil dragon sword. The evil dragon sword was very compatible with the cultivation techniques of the evil Dragon Hall. It was more suitable for the evil dragon transformation. That's right, the complete evil dragon transformation required the cooperation of the evil dragon sword. When the 3rd elder used the incomplete evil dragon transformation, it was because he did not have the evil dragon sword. Of course, it was also because the evil dragon soul was incomplete. To Dark Star or Bright Moon experts, spiritual swords were nothing. The evil dragon soul in the evil dragon sword was what they wanted, especially the experts of the Zhanlong Manor. For a time, a large number of foreign experts swarmed into the Ironwing camp, bringing great pressure to the Ironwing camp. Zheng Taijun was in a state of excitement and fear all day long. As for Chu Mu, he didn't go far. Instead, he stayed in an inconspicuous house in the Iron Wing camp. During this month, he had also spent it on cultivation. Of the 4 bottles of pills that Gu Wu gave him, other than the 4 elements energy refining pill, he had consumed all of the other 3 bottles. Chu Mu's cultivation base was at the late stage of the 8th firmament of the Aeon, and his saint physique was at the early stage of the 6th firmament. An early stage level 6 saint body not only had greater strength, speed, agility, and explosive power, but also had more endurance. The hardness and toughness of the internal organs, bones, muscles, and skin had also been significantly improved. In other words, the defensive power had become stronger. In addition, his self-healing ability had also improved. His strength naturally increased in a straight line, but as for what level, Chu Mu could not be sure. He could only be sure of one thing, and that was that his current strength was definitely not weaker than himself after using the Divine Wilderness Origin Returning Technique and equipping himself with the Silver Divine Equipment. The increase in strength brought with it greater confidence. That was why Chu Mu had shown himself and made the first step of his counterattack. Now, all he had to do was prepare. He had to do his best to integrate all his powers and increase his strength as much as possible. He cultivated both the ghostly dragon disorienting steps and the ghostly dragon shadowless body. Just as Guewu had said, if he cultivated both the ghostly dragon disorienting steps and the ghostly dragon shadowless body together, he could verify each other and deepen his understanding of them. When he reached a certain level, he could even use them at the same time, making them even more mysterious and unpredictable. For example, if Chu Mu had not made a breakthrough and comprehended the moon in the water, he would not have been able to defeat Ing Mukong if he had used both at the same time. Soon, a month had passed. A high platform had already been built in a huge open space of the Iron Wing camp. Below the platform there were many chairs. They were far apart from each other, so as to leave enough space for people to sit down. There were not many chairs, only 100 of them. This was because there would not be many people who could participate in the auction. Beyond the boundaries of the chairs, there were soldiers from the Ironwing army who were in charge of maintaining order and keeping the crowd away so as not to disturb the auction. Although they had worked hard, the conditions were still limited, and it was rather crude. One could say that this was a rather simple auction. However, the items being auctioned were not simple at all. Soon, the people participating in the auction arrived one by one. When they saw the crude auction venue, they could not help frowning. However, they did not say anything. Whether the auction venue was good or not was one thing. The important thing was that the items being auctioned were good. After some more time, a figure tore through the sky like a meteor, instantly appearing on the high platform. It was Chu-Mu. Sweeping his eyes over the place, he saw that the 100 chairs still weren't filled. However, Chu-Mu didn't care. He only had one goal in holding this auction, and that was to strike back at the evil Dragon Palace and damage their reputation. To any faction, reputation was extremely important. If one's reputation was affected, the faction's development would be affected as well. This was like cutting off someone's wealth and destroying their future. How could the evil Dragon Palace not go crazy? Furthermore, this was just the first step of Chu-Mu's counterattack. Furthermore, he needed to raise his cultivation faster. The 2 evil dragon swords were not cheap. He could definitely exchange them for some treasures that could raise his cultivation. Attacking the evil Dragon Palace and exchanging them for treasures that could raise his cultivation was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Why not? I know very well why everyone is here. I won't say anything unnecessary, Chu-Mu said with a smile. Then he took out 2 swords. The 2 swords had red evil dragon markings on them. They were very lifelike, as if they were about to come to life. Evil dragon swords. They are real evil dragon swords. The eyes of the experts below who were going to participate in the auction suddenly lit up, emitting a sharp light. The weakest of these experts was a peak 9-star saint. Their backgrounds were not ordinary. They came from the 5-city Lord Mansions. There were also dark star experts and 5 bright moon experts. Seeing these experts, Zheng Taijun also relaxed. Even if the experts of the evil Dragon Palace arrived, they would not dare to act recklessly in front of so many experts. Otherwise, it would be equivalent to provoking these experts and the forces behind them. Thinking about it, although the evil Dragon Palace was very powerful, the experts present were at least on the same level as the evil Dragon Palace. There were also the 5-city Lord Mansions, which were above the evil Dragon Palace. How could the evil Dragon Palace dare to provoke them? Wouldn't that be suicide? Everyone, I only have these 2 evil dragon swords. Of course, if I get more in the future, I don't mind auctioning them off. Chu-Mu's words caused a burst of laughter. Long story short, the news has already been released. I don't need the sinner's heart. I only need treasures and pills that can raise cultivation or refine the saint body. For example, for image transformation pill, ancient saint breaking limit pill, and so on. Let's bid first. There is no reserve price. The highest bidder wins. It had to be said that this was indeed a very simple auction. There was no reserve price. The highest bidder wins. The auction began. I'll throw a brick to attract jade. A bottle of 4 image transformation pill. One of them said, although a bottle of 4 image transformation pill was very valuable, it could not be compared to a spiritual sword, especially the evil dragon sword that contained the soul of the evil dragon. However, this was indeed a method of throwing a brick to attract jade. 2 bottles of 4 image transformation pill. Immediately another person bid. The 4 image transformation pill was a very high-grade origin energy pill. Its value was naturally very high, for those forces that were second only to the ghost dragon sect. Although they could also take out 2 bottles of 4 image transformation pill, they would not take it out like this. They would still use it to nurture their disciples, and so on. Usually they would use it 1 pill at a time, not 1 bottle at a time. 2 bottles of 4 image transformation pill and 1 bottle of ancient saint breaking limit pill. A dark star sword saint bid. The combined value of 3 bottles of pills was not inferior to a low-grade spiritual sword. However, because the evil dragon's sword contained the soul of the evil dragon, its value was even higher. Chu Mu, give the 2 evil dragon swords to my Zhanlong Manor. My Zhanlong Manor will resolve the grudge between you and the evil dragon palace. A dark star sword saint suddenly stood up and said in a clear voice. It was an expert from Zhanlong Manor. Sir, you're mistaken. This is an auction. Chu Mu said, That's right. This is indeed an auction. The price I'm offering is to protect you and resolve the grudge between you and the evil dragon palace. The dark star sword saint said confidently, I've already made it clear. As long as it's a pill or treasure that can increase one's cultivation, I won't accept anything else. Chu Mu calmly repeated. The expressions of the experts from Zhanlong Manor suddenly changed. It was obvious that they were not satisfied with Chu Mu's answer. Chu Mu, I advise you to take back your words. Think carefully before you answer. My Zhanlong Manor is not something the evil dragon palace can compare to. The dark star sword saint from Zhanlong Manor sneered. Although he did not say it clearly, his words were filled with threat. In other words, Chu Mu would offend Zhanlong Manor. Offending Zhanlong Manor after offending the evil dragon palace was indeed very troublesome, because Zhanlong Manor was much stronger than the evil dragon palace. I, Chu Mu, am not someone who can be scared. A faint smile appeared on Chu Mu's face, but his eyes were filled with coldness. Zhanlong Manor was indeed powerful, but so what? What did Chu Mu have to fear? All right. The dark star sword saint from Zhanlong Manor did not say anything else. Instead, he coldly glanced at Chu Mu. His sharp gaze seemed to be able to pierce through Chu Mu. Chu Mu's expression did not change. It was as if he did not feel anything. Are there any other bids? If there aren't, then this evil dragon's sword will go to that, sir. Chu Mu ignored the people from Zhanlong Manor and spoke in a clear voice. He was referring to the expert who had offered 2 bottles of 4-image energy transformation pills and 1 bottle of Ancient Saint's Extreme Break pill. Of course there are. My Silver Manor will not bully others. I offer 2 bottles of 4-image energy transformation pills and 2 bottles of Ancient Saint's Extreme Break pill. Another voice rang out. This time the price was even higher. Chapter 1823. Bastard. Immediately hand over the evil dragon sword, and I'll leave you with an intact corpse. Suddenly, an aged voice filled with rage and killing intent rang out in the tense auction venue. Immediately after, it was like a thick and heavy brush swiped across the air. A black figure appeared. It was a mysterious black-robed person. The moment this mysterious black-robed person appeared, a powerful and cold aura poured down from the sky. It was all aimed at Chu Mu, surging through the void and charging towards him. It was like a cold wind blew. Chu Mu's robes fluttered, and his long hair fluttered. However, his expression did not change, showing no fear at all. You must be the evil dragon palace's first elder that has been in seclusion for hundreds of years, right? Chu Mu smiled and said, If you want the evil dragon sword, sure, make a bid. The smile on Xiao Chen's face and his calm tone made one want to go crazy. That was right. The black-robed person who suddenly appeared was the mysterious evil dragon palace's first elder. This first elder was rather close to the Iron Wing camp. After he received the news, he rushed over at full speed, arriving on the day of the auction. Originally, this first elder planned to make a move the moment he arrived and kill Chu Mu. However, when he sensed the strong auras and recognized the owners of these auras, he had no choice but to suppress the murderous intent in his heart. There was no helping it. If Xiao Chun made a move here, he might end up provoking these experts. Provoking them was not scary. However, the faction behind them was scary. If Xiao Chun was not careful, he might bring disaster to the evil dragon palace. If the evil dragon palace's first elder did not dare to make a move, The Ironwing camp would be fine, at least for now. This allowed Zheng Taijun to relax. Everyone, please wait for a moment. After I kill the evil dragon palace's first elder, the auction will continue. Who knows, there might be a third evil dragon sword. Chu Mu acted like he did not see the evil dragon palace's first elder. He looked at the crowd below the tall platform and smiled. Xiao Chen's expression and tone were like he was saying, "I'm going for a drink first." He spoke so casually, completely looking down on the evil dragon palace's first elder. However, the evil dragon palace's great elder did not seem to have any reaction. Chu Mu's figure flickered as he flew out of the Ironwing camp. The great elder followed closely, afraid that Chu Mu would escape. To the great elder, it was best that Chu Mu was willing to leave the Ironwing camp. He would no longer have to worry about offending the experts of the other major powers and provoke an undefeatable enemy for the evil Dragon Hall. To Chu Mu and the evil Dragon Hall's great elder, several kilometers away from the Ironwing camp was covered in just a few breaths of time. "I'm a little curious. What exactly does your face look like under the black robe?" Chu Mu said indifferently as he stopped and stood on the ground. He looked at the evil Dragon Hall's first elder, who was quickly chasing after him. "You don't need to know." The first elder's tone was harsh and cold. Traces of darkness were emitted from his body. The sky behind him seemed to be splashed with ink, gradually turning black. Gloomy, cold, oppressive. At this moment, the experts of the Ironwing camp who had participated in the auction also caught up. They watched from about 10,000 meters away. The battle between unparalleled Sword Star and the mysterious evil Dragon Hall's great elder. One was a newly risen demonic genius of the new generation, while the other was a rather mysterious veteran expert who had been in seclusion for several hundred years. There was also a great hatred between them, the kind where only one of them could live. Just thinking about how intense the battle would be once it broke out made everyone look forward to it. Darkness continued to spread and quickly dyed the sky, causing the light to dim. As expected of a reclusive veteran expert, I can see how extraordinary he is with just this move. This old fellow's strength reached the peak of the Dark Star level several hundred years ago. After several hundred years, even if he is limited by his talent and cannot increase his strength by much, he might have made some breakthroughs in other areas. For many experts, when their strength was raised to the limit and they found it difficult to break through, they would spend a portion of their time researching other things, such as sword forging, alchemy, the Tao of Seals, and so on. There was no limit to knowledge, and there were all kinds of strange things. There was nothing strange about it. If the great elder of the evil Dragon Palace had spent these several hundred years, other than thinking of ways to increase his strength, he might have really researched some other things. With the style of the evil Dragon Palace, the things he researched were most likely not normal. It was very likely that they would be useful in battle. Darkness continued to spread out, quickly spreading towards Chu Mu. It looked like it wanted to devour Chu Mu. Chu Mu could feel the sinister coldness contained in the invading darkness. He released his aura. The formless aura seemed to condense into an illusory sword, ruthlessly slashing at the spreading darkness and breaking it apart. However, the darkness was very stubborn. It quickly healed and surged forward like a tide. His aura skyrocketed and soared into the sky. It transformed into waves and surged out violently, resisting the darkness that permeated the air. The clash of auras caused a powerful aura to spread out. Ripples spread out in all directions, tearing everything apart. The space within a radius of several thousand meters was affected. It became oppressive, heavy, and cold. The darkness that the evil Dragon Hall's great elder emitted was his aura. It had reached the limits of the Dark Star level and was very tyrannical. For a moment, Chu Mu was at a disadvantage in the clash of auras. After all, Chu Mu was indeed very strong. His talent was also very shocking. However, his flaw was also very obvious: cultivation time. It could be said that whether it was ordinary cultivators or geniuses, their cultivation time was about the same. 1 year was 1 year, 10 years was 10 years, and 100 years was 100 years. The evil dragon Hall's great elder had lived for at least 1,000 years. The amount of time he had spent on the path of cultivation surpassed Chumu by 10 times. Thus, it was not strange for him to surpass Chumu in terms of the use of aura. The use of aura had always been Chumu's weak point. Sword. With a low shout, Chumu opened his hands. Spiritual energy seemed to spurt out. Flames spread out. As the eternal light spread out, 2 spiritual swords appeared in Chumu's hands. He held them tightly. Chop! Xiao Chun shouted again, causing his aura to instantly soar. As the 2 swords crossed, a resplendent sword light tore through space and shot out. Together with Xiao Chen's aura, it was even sharper, directly crushing the spreading darkness. When Xiao Chen used the 2 swords to attack, his might clearly soared. The darkness aura could not resist at all. With the 2 swords in his hands, Chumu's aura continuously soared, becoming stronger and stronger. There seemed to be an invisible, but incomparably sharp, sword moving up and down around his body. Evil dragon! The evil dragon Hall's great elder shouted. A ferocious roar rang out from the darkness above. It seemed like a figure deeper than the darkness appeared and moved quickly. It was a dragon, a flood dragon, a pitch-black evil flood dragon. Sword, come! The evil dragon Hall's great elder shouted again. He raised his left hand, and in an instant it seemed to reach into the darkness. He grabbed it and pulled it out. With a ferocious roar, the evil dragon in the darkness quickly swam toward the great elder's raised hand and condensed. A pitch-black sword was pulled out from the darkness by the great elder's left hand. Traces of red light shone on the sword, giving off a strong evil aura. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws, looking very lifelike, like a real flood dragon. The evil dragon's sword. Furthermore, it looked even stronger than the evil dragon swords in the hands of the 2nd Palace Master Lin Jintong and the 3rd Palace Master Wu Yuzi. A medial grade, spiritual sword. The eyes of the experts, watching in the distance, immediately lit up. Everyone knew that spiritual swords were divided into low grade, mid grade, high grade, and top grade. The difference between each grade was very obvious. In theory, any low-grade spiritual sword could be nurtured into a medial-grade spiritual sword, high-grade spiritual sword, or even top-grade spiritual sword. However, theory was only theory. It was like cultivators. In theory, they could all become peerless experts, but in reality, only a very small number of people could do so. Cultivators looked at talent, temperament, opportunities, and so on. On the other hand, spiritual swords looked at potential. Potential was related to the materials used to forge the sword and the person who nurtured it. Thus, low-grade spiritual swords were the majority. The ratio of medial-grade spiritual swords to low-grade spiritual swords was close to 100. The 2 evil dragon swords that Chumu had auctioned off before were both low-grade spiritual swords. The evil dragon's soul within this evil dragon Hall's great elder's medial-grade spiritual sword would be even stronger. Originally, the complete evil dragon's soul was just as strong. After a long period of nurturing, it had become a medial-grade spiritual sword. Naturally, it would grow as well, because the evil dragon sword's spirituality was closely related to the evil dragon soul. When the spiritual sword's quality increased, its spirituality would naturally increase as well. I hope that Chumu can kill that old fellow. Some experts secretly said. At that time, this medial-grade spiritual sword might also be auctioned off by Chumu. If he obtained it, he would be able to extract an even stronger evil dragon's soul from it. For experts who needed the evil dragon soul, the stronger the evil dragon soul, the better. With the evil dragon sword in hand, the great elder's aura sword, the darkness quickly became denser. He unsheathed his sword, evil dragon claws. Under the completely different auras, a huge, pitch-black claw tore through the air from the darkness above. It fiercely grabbed at Chu-Mu without any mercy. Every claw was at least as thick as a robust man's waist. With a single grab, Chu-Mu's figure seemed extremely small. The disparity was huge. The powerful aura's impact and suppression made Chu-Mu feel a little suffocated. However, he felt even more excited and emotional. Whether he was an expert or not, he would know as soon as he made his move. The evil dragon hall's great elder's sword was the same evil dragon's claw. However, it was even more powerful than third hall master Wu Yuzi's and second hall master Lin Jintong's. The darkness energy contained within it was even purer, denser, and sharper. If it was before, Chu-Mu might not have been able to deal with it. However, now that his Yuan power cultivation and Saint body cultivation had clearly improved, he was even more powerful. Chapter 1824. The sword light was like a meteor, instantly piercing through the sky. 26 streaks of sword lights descended like a torrential downpour, instantly shattering the darkness evil dragon claw that was descending. Then he slashed out again, and a bright moon rose. Darkness enveloped the area as if the night sky had descended. However, the moonlight wasn't affected at all. It was unprecedentedly bright. In the next moment, Chu-Mu turned into an afterimage and appeared in front of the great elder. Then he unleashed a storm of attacks with his two swords. Sword light poured down, and the stars and the moon shone together. The incomparably violent sword light was too much for the eyes to take in. As soon as it was unleashed, it immediately stunned the group of people who were watching the battle from afar. The 5 bright moon sword saints from the 5-city Lord Mansions frowned. Their eyes narrowed, and light flickered in their eyes. They were very shocked in their hearts. This kind of attack had reached the limit of the Dark Star level. Ordinary Dark Star sword saints couldn't withstand it at all. The group of Dark Star sword saints was even more shocked, especially those who were confident in their own strength. They always thought that the rumors about Chu-Mu were just rumors, and they believed that their strength wasn't inferior to Chu-Mu's and could even defeat Chu-Mu. Now that they saw it with their own eyes, they immediately broke out in cold sweat. The Dark Star sword saint from the Zhanlong mansion, who threatened Chu-Mu before, also had an ugly expression. He couldn't withstand this kind of sword technique at all. Thinking about it, he couldn't help but feel a little scared. As time passed, Chu-Mu's understanding of the 13 meteor strikes and moon slashing art became deeper and deeper. He was also more proficient in using them. As his cultivation and strength increased, the power of these 2 sword techniques also increased. As expected of an old monster who had lived for 1,000 or 2,000 years, the evil dragon palace's great elder wasn't stunned by Chu-Mu's violent attacks. He slashed out with his sword, and it was like an evil dragon swinging its tail. The momentum was heavy, and a loud boom sounded, shaking the void. Under the fluctuations of darkness, the terrifying power was like the roar of the sea. No matter how you change, I will only break it with great strength. One had to admit that the evil dragon palace's great elder's battle techniques were very experienced. They were even above experts like Wu Yuzi. Similarly, it was the ultimate state of being one with the sword, but different experts had different comprehensions and different deductions. Lin Jintong used his entire body as a sword to attack. However, the evil dragon palace's first elder only used the sword in his left hand. He was extremely proficient in both offense, defense, and counterattack. His movements were as smooth as moving clouds and flowing water, without any hesitation. Left-handed swordsmanship was often harder to cultivate than right-handed swordsmanship. It was sharper, more unpredictable, and harder to defend against. The evil dragon palace's great elder had immersed himself in the sword in his left hand for over 1,000 years. He had already reached an unparalleled height. When he swung his sword, it was as if a red evil dragon baring its fangs and brandishing its claws rushed out, letting out a roar. As the sound waves surged out, the evil dragon's roar, and evil dragon's claws clawed out, fusing them into one sword. Its might had increased by several times, making it even more difficult to deal with. Chu Mu's expression did not change. He held his sword vertically in the center of his chest, the tip of the sword pointing upwards. Everyone seemed to see a mountain sprout from the ground like a sapling on the boundless earth. It rapidly grew, growing taller and taller. In the end, it towered above the earth like a heavenly sword. It also carried a sense of loneliness, eternal and indestructible. With one sword, Chu Mu blocked his opponent's attack. Solitary Peak Sword Techniques. Solitary Peak lives forever. The Solitary Peak Sword Technique was a first-class sword technique. It only had one move. It was created purely for defense. After Chu Mu had cultivated it, he had comprehended and improved it. In the end, he had evolved a second move based on the original foundation. It had increased the might of the Solitary Peak sword technique by a lot. Its level had also risen from first-class sword technique to inherited level. The move that had evolved was called Solitary Peak. It was executed with the Eternal Spirit Sword, stimulating the eternal power within the Eternal Spirit Sword. Combined with the true meaning of defense, it was even more powerful. Unfortunately, he still could not use the sword intent. Otherwise, if he used the Eternal Sword intent to control it, the might of Solitary Peak sword technique would definitely rise to another level. One sword to defend, one sword to counterattack. A meteor streaked across the sky. 14. The dazzling sword light pierced through at an extremely fast speed, but the first elder's sword suddenly appeared in front of him, using the body of the sword to block 14's attack. The first elder's power was poured into the body of the sword, causing the body of the sword to turn into an evil dragon. This sword technique did not belong to the evil dragon sword technique. It was a sword technique that the great elder had created after immersing himself in the evil dragon sword technique for thousands of years. It was called evil dragon coiling. It was mainly used to defend oneself against all kinds of attacks. The bright moon rose and fell. It was called moonfall. Moonfall caught the great elder off guard. However, the great elder's figure was swept by a black shadow. Under moonfall, he disappeared. Suddenly, he appeared above Chu Mu's head. His sword fell, as if it had transformed into an evil dragon. It fell from the sky and shattered the earth. This was another move that did not belong to the evil dragon sword technique. It was a move that was born from the evil dragon sword technique, Evil Dragon Fall. A terrifying pressure pressed down from above. The ground under Chu Mu's feet directly collapsed under the impact of this enormous pressure. Cracks began to spread out in all directions. This sword gave Chu Mu a feeling that he would not be able to resist it. Shadowless shadow. With a low shout, Chu Mu's figure suddenly swayed. His front, back, left, right, up, down became blurry and distorted. Shortly after, he collapsed under the evil dragon Fall's attack and disappeared. With a boom, rocks flew everywhere and turned into powder. The ground where Chu Mu had been was completely destroyed, revealing a large hole. As for Chu Mu, he was nowhere to be seen. The great elder quickly turned around and landed on the ground. He held his sword horizontally and transformed into an evil dragon. As expected, a cold light flickered from the side. A sword pierced over. When the great elder blocked it, a second sword slashed down like a falling moon. The two swords attacked from different angles. The dark sword light turned into a curtain that enveloped the sky. The evil dragon Hall's great elder displayed an unparalleled sword technique. Chu Mu's sword technique was also incomparably exquisite. The two sides were evenly matched. For a moment, no one could do anything to the other. The intense battle was still ongoing. The spectators in the distance were all dumbfounded. It was hard to imagine that the battle would be so dangerous and intense. The profound sword technique made everyone intoxicated. The 5 bright moon sword saints from the 5 city Lord Manners, were also very shocked. If they suppressed their strength and were on par with the other party, they might not be able to defeat Chu or the evil dragon hall's great elder. If they were not careful, they might even be defeated. This was enough to show how terrifying the two were. The intense battle continued. The surrounding ground was cut by the sword chi. Countless deep and shocking scars appeared on the ground. Zheng Taijun watched from afar, his heart trembling. Fortunately, this battle did not take place within the Iron Wing camp. Otherwise, the shock waves from the two's exchange would be enough to destroy the entire camp. Even if it was demolished, it would take a lot of manpower and resources to rebuild. The loss would be indescribable. He had been silently praying that Chu could win and defeat the evil dragon, Hall's great elder. It would be best if he could kill him. Otherwise, if the evil dragon Hall's great elder won, the Iron Wing camp would be angered and directly annihilated, no longer existing. However, judging from the current situation, it would not be easy for Chu to win. The evil dragon Hall's great elder strength was indeed very strong. He was at the limit of a Dark Star sword saint. In addition, he had been immersed in sword techniques and battle techniques for thousands of years. They were incomparably exquisite. Under the combination, although his absolute strength did not break through the Dark Star level, he was even more difficult to deal with. Chu two swords were unable to break through his defense and injure him. Of course, the evil dragon Hall's great elder's attacks were also unable to injure Chu. Both sides were doing their best to control their strength and pour it all into the swords in their hands, maximizing the killing power of their swords. However, when the two swords clashed, a portion of the power was unavoidably sent out, causing damage to the surrounding ground. The destruction was like a natural disaster. With the strength of both sides, if they fought on the top of Dragonhead Mountain, it was possible that the mountain would be damaged even more, lowering its height. Darkness shrouded the area like dark clouds. After the evil dragon Hall's great elder repelled Chu, a black light flickered, and he retreated several dozen meters. The evil dragon's sword drew a circle in front of him and then ruthlessly pierced forward. Black light spread out, and darkness covered the area, turning into a dark evil dragon that instantly charged out. Dark evil dragon break. This was another one of the great elder's self-created moves. It was an ultimate move, and its power was astonishing. It was as if an evil dragon had come out of its cave. In an instant, its power was unbelievably tyrannical. It had already surpassed the limits of the Dark Star level, and it destroyed everything in its path. Wherever the dark evil dragon passed, the ground shattered, and a deep gully was forcibly opened. Its power was astonishing, and even the experts 10,000 meters away felt an enormous pressure. Chu-Mu's expression changed, and he attacked with his sword. First, 26 meteor sword light streaked across the sky, followed by double sword 14, then double sword 15, and finally, solitary peak exists forever. Under the dark evil dragon's attack, Chu-Mu instantly blocked it. His body dispersed like smoke under the dark evil dragon's attack. In the face of danger, Chu-Mu used the combination of Ghost Dragon Perplexing Track and Ghost Dragon Shadowless Body, Shadowless Perplexing Steps, and fused it with his own sword chi image. The smoke-like sword chi image was destroyed, and the dark evil dragon continued onward without any hindrance. Chu-Mu's real body crossed a few hundred meters and appeared in front of the Great Elder, and he attacked with both swords. Under the unparalleled berserk sword light, the Great Elder, who had just used his ultimate move, couldn't defend perfectly. His black robe was torn apart by Chu-Mu's sharp sword light. Chu-Mu's two swords also hit the Great Elder's body. However, a strange sound rang out, as if a blunt knife was chopping wood covered in cowhide. The mysterious First Elder finally revealed his true form. In an instant, everyone was endlessly shocked. He had a bald head and a black body. He looked like a withered old tree. Apart from his appearance being similar to a human's, He looked like a human's body. Every one of Chu Mu's sword attacks hit the Great Elder's body, but they were all blocked. Ha 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 ha. Little bastard, you think you can break my unbreakable puppet body? The Great Elder laughed sinisterly. Chapter 1825. It's actually the unbreakable puppet body. Most of the experts in the distance were bewildered. However, a small number of people who had lived longer and knew more revealed shocked expressions. The path of cultivation could be divided into origin power cultivation, sacred body cultivation, and primordial spirit cultivation. These were the mainstream paths. After all, in the world of cultivators, the strong were respected. If one was not strong enough, they were nothing. Only when one was strong enough would one have more right to speak, a higher status and greater authority. However, not everyone would continue on the path of cultivation. Perhaps it was because of talent, hobbies, or other various reasons. Some people would choose to walk other paths. For example, the path of forging swords would allow one to become a swordsmith. For example, the path of alchemy would allow one to become an alchemist. For example, the path of sealing would allow one to become a sealing master. Apart from these, there was the path of puppetry, allowing one to become a puppeteer. Apart from that, there were all sorts of other strange techniques, too many to count. Furthermore, each of these daos had many branches. For example, the path of puppetry. After the evil dragon palace's first elder's strength reached its limit and could not break through, he turned to studying the path of puppetry. It belonged to one of the branches. He modified his own body into a puppet body. There were different branches to the modification of one's own body. The unbreakable puppet body was one of them. 10,000 years ago, there was a sect called the Puppet Path. They specialized in the self-modification of puppets. It was very terrifying. The puppet body had astonishing defensive power, far exceeding one's own strength. Hence, they ran amok and did things arrogantly. In the end, they aroused public anger, and many sects joined forces to attack them. After the puppet path was destroyed, the successors were killed one by one. However, there were still a few who escaped and hid. The unbreakable puppet body was the inheritance that the puppet path was proud of. Unexpectedly, the evil dragon palace's first elder had unknowingly cultivated the unbreakable puppet body. Either he was a descendant of the puppet path's inheritance, or he was lucky enough to obtain the cultivation method of the unbreakable puppet body. However, 10,000 years was a very long time. Even if the inheritance of the puppet path was left behind, it could not affect the overall situation of the land of exile. However, those who knew the truth all understood how powerful the unbreakable puppet body was. It was a terrifying power. Although the unbreakable puppet body didn't contain the power to destroy the heavens and earth, it had an indestructible defense. If the Grand Elder only had an ordinary saintly body, he would have been heavily injured by Chu Mu's sword long ago. However, the unbreakable puppet body allowed Chu Mu's two swords to attack without being damaged at all. It forcefully resisted Chu Mu's two swords. There's no suspense. This time, Chu Mu is finished. Looks like I won't be able to get the evil dragon's sword. The power of the unbreakable puppet body was unrivaled 10,000 years ago. Those who knew the truth all understood how powerful it was. The evil dragon palace's first elder's attack had reached the limit of the dark star level. That dark evil dragon break had even surpassed the limit of the dark star level. It could vaguely threaten a bright moon sword saint. If Chu Mu was hit by such an attack, he would be heavily injured, even if he didn't die. On the other hand, the evil dragon palace's first elder had transformed his body into the unbreakable puppet body. His defense had surpassed the limit of the dark star level. Even a bright moon sword saint would not be able to break through it easily. Unless Chu Mu's attack power could reach the level of a bright moon sword saint, he probably wouldn't be able to do anything to the unbreakable puppet body. If he couldn't break through the defense of the unbreakable puppet body, he wouldn't be able to kill him. Relying on the powerful defense of the unbreakable puppet body, the evil dragon palace's first elder launched a frenzied counterattack. He wasn't afraid of Chu Mu's two swords at all. Even if he was hit, his body wouldn't be injured. Moreover, after the transformation, his body didn't have any negative emotions such as pain. His mind wouldn't be affected by his body. The reckless attacks caused the evil dragon palace's first elder's offense to reach its peak. The might of his swords was tyrannical. Black sword light with traces of scarlet covered the surroundings. It tore through the sky and attacked Chu Mu from all directions and angles. The evil dragon palace's first elder waved his two swords continuously, defending and counterattacking. Evil dragon sword technique, great evil dragon sword, and all kinds of self-created sword moves were used alternately. The frenzied attacks actually suppressed Chu Mu in an instant. It couldn't be helped. Although Chu Mu's saint body had reached the early stage of level 6, his defense had also increased greatly. Ordinary attacks couldn't break through his saint body's defense and cause him the slightest bit of damage. However, the evil dragon palace's first elder's sword was extremely frightening. It could easily tear apart Chu Mu's saint body. At the very least, the saint body had to reach level 9 to be able to resist the sword of a dark star sword saint to a certain extent. However, the evil dragon palace's first elder's unbreakable puppet body could completely resist the sword of a dark star sword saint. It could even resist the sword of a bright moon sword saint to a certain extent. Its defensive strength had already completely surpassed a level 9 saint body, leaving it far behind. Chu Mu temporarily gave up on counterattacking and focused on defense. His two swords continuously used the solitary peak sword technique. Solitary peak exists forever, firmly protecting his body. His divine soul spread out and covered the evil dragon palace's first elder's body, carefully searching for a weak point. His eyes were also constantly observing, looking for a flaw. Once he found a flaw, he would immediately launch the fiercest counterattack. However, even after several dozen breaths, Chu Mu still couldn't find a single flaw or weakness. It was as if this unbreakable puppet body was perfect and flawless. Indeed, the puppet path's highest inheritance, the unbreakable puppet body, could be said to be perfect. Of course, it couldn't be said to be truly perfect. It was just that there were no obvious flaws or weaknesses. If one wanted to break it, there was only one way, and that was to use a powerful attack that surpassed the limits of its defense and forcefully break it. That was all. Different people who cultivated the unbreakable puppet body would have different defensive strengths. For example, a 9-star sword saint's unbreakable puppet body and a dark star sword saint's unbreakable puppet body would have a difference in defensive strength. It was said that 10,000 years ago, the unbreakable puppet body of a bright moon sword saint of the puppet path could withstand the attacks of any bright moon sword saint without being damaged. In the end, it was 5 bright moon sword saints who formed a powerful battle formation, causing their offensive strength to break through the limits and reach the level of a bright sun sword saint. After an intense battle, they finally broke through the unbreakable puppet body of a bright moon sword saint. My unbreakable puppet body is perfect. After revealing the unbreakable puppet body, the great elder's temperament seemed to have changed greatly. He no longer spoke a single word and let out a wild laugh. "Little bastard, you're dead for sure. Little bastard, your end has arrived." As he crazily attacked, the evil dragon palace's great elder let out a hoarse and ear-piercing laugh. The pressure slowly increased. Chu Mu had no choice but to equip himself with the silver divine equipment to increase his strength. "Little bastard, you think you can fight against me just because you're wearing a set of armor?" Zhang Tiejuan's face was ashen. He was extremely nervous. He had never imagined that the mysterious evil Dragon Palace's great elder would actually transform his body into a puppet body. The powerful puppet body possessed astonishing defensive strength. Chu Mu's 2 swords were completely useless against it. Sword God's Descent. With a low shout, a portion of the Sword God's Descent secret technique's power was instantly activated. The two swords' sharpness increased tenfold. Demon Subduing Vambrace activate. His strength and speed increased once again. Waning Moon. First, Shao Chun blocked the Great Elder's crazed attacks. Then he executed the Moon's Severing Art's sixth move. Under the power of Waning Moon, the Great Elder's movements instantly paused. 15. Shao Qin sent out another sword strike. It was like a shooting star shattering the sky. Waning Moon and 15 struck the Great Elder's body at practically the same time. The sound of something shattering rang out. Fine cracks appeared on the Great Elder's puppet body where the sword struck. However, these cracks were very small, so small that it made one feel despair. Furthermore, they quickly healed in the blink of an eye. Aside from possessing astonishing defensive strength, the unbreakable puppet body also possessed astonishing endurance and recovery ability. Not bad. Your sword is actually able to slightly damage my unbreakable puppet body. However, that is all. The Great Elder's voice contained some surprise. Then he guffawed. Chu Mu frowned slightly. Aside from not using the divine, desolate, returning origin, secret technique, and the sword domain, he had used all his other methods. However, he only managed to slightly damage the unbreakable puppet body, which immediately recovered. How should Shao Qin deal with such an opponent? Could it be that he could only leave in such a sorry state today? This was the first step of his counterattack against the evil Dragon Palace. If he failed, the evil Dragon Palace's reputation would become even stronger, and Chu Mu's reputation would be greatly affected. Of course, to Chu Mu, he didn't care about his reputation. However, he wouldn't allow his first counterattack to fail prematurely. This would be an invisible blow to his confidence. Then, how should I break through his defense? Chu Mu pondered as he defended. His mind spun. Various thoughts flashed through his mind. Suddenly a light flashed. The unbreakable puppet body is a transformation of one's body into a puppet body. In that case, to a certain extent, it can be considered a puppet. Since it's a puppet, the unbreakable light should be effective. Back in the deep blue world, Shao Qin had accidentally obtained the puppet-breaking light when he entered the myriad ancient sacred city. Perhaps it could be used now. With a thought, Chu Mu raised his hand and released a yellow light. It was extremely fast. The evil Dragon Palace's Great Elder knew that the unbreakable puppet body's defense was astonishing. He didn't dodge and was directly hit. Only when the yellow light hit his body did the Great Elder realize that something was wrong. That kind of light actually made him feel weak after entering his body. His strength was weakened by at least 30%. The unbreakable puppet body was clearly affected. Waning Moon. 15. Seizing the instant opportunity, Chu Mu immediately attacked. One Waning Moon sword, instantly restricting and slashing down. 115 sword, bombarding like meteors. The unbreakable puppet body was weakened by 30% by the puppet-breaking light. It was directly pierced through by Chu Mu's sword. Another sword. Heaven's Might sword style. A terrifying power erupted and slashed down. It was like the wrath of the heavens. Amidst the evil Dragon Palace's Great Elder's incomparable fear, the slash brazenly fell. Chapter 1826. This sword was like the might of the heavens. The might of this sword had also surpassed the limits of the Dark Star rank, reaching the level of threatening the Bright Moon rank. It was enough to cause one's expression to change. Heart and sword as one could not increase the direct offensive power of Chu Mu's sword techniques. It only made his sword faster and more nimble. However, the evil Dragon Hall's Great Elder was hit by the puppet-breaking light. His unbreakable puppet body was weakened by 30%, and his reaction speed was also affected. Under Waning Moon, the Great Elder was immediately imprisoned. The incomparably sharp sword light slashed down, and the originally unbreakable puppet body was directly broken. One sword 15 pierced through the unbreakable puppet body. Although he did not feel any pain from being injured, the evil dragon Hall's great elder was shocked. He had spent over 1,000 years, countless energy and resources, and endured great pain to finally cultivate the unbreakable puppet body. This allowed him to be in an undefeatable position within the Dark Star rank. However, it was actually broken now. The unbreakable puppet body that he was so proud of was finally broken. In that moment of panic and loss, he almost drowned his mind. Therefore, even without the heart sword as one, he was completely unable to resist the sword that was like the wrath of the heavens. Heaven's might sword style, the ultimate sword light, slashed down. The unbreakable puppet body of the evil dragon, Hall's great elder, was already covered in cracks like a porcelain doll. Then it shattered. The tyrannical power rushed to his head. Just as it was about to shatter his origin spirit, the evil dragon Hall's great elder's shattered body suddenly erupted with a terrifying power, causing Chu Mu's expression to change. He hastily executed the six-path sword style to defend himself. Then he executed the Lonely Peak Forever. Then he executed the combination of Shadowless Phantom and Sword Chi Image, quickly retreating. An intense explosion rang out, causing one's ears to ring. A terrifying black light carried an incomparably shocking dark power, spreading out in all directions. It was as ferocious as a tide. Layers of dark waves spread out in all directions. Everywhere they passed, the ground shattered and turned into dust. In an instant, the dark power engulfed an area of several thousand meters, destroying everything and turning it into nothingness. Within the darkness, a black light soared into the sky. It tore through the void and pierced through it. It was so fast that there was no time to chase after it. It disappeared. That was the origin spirit of the evil dragon, Hall's great elder. The explosion of black light disappeared, revealing a huge crater that was hundreds of meters wide and tens of meters deep. It was a ghastly sight. There was nothing in the huge pit. The evil dragon Hall's first elder's spatial ring had disappeared. His mid-rank spirit sword, the evil dragon sword, had also disappeared. It couldn't be helped. The power of the explosion was too powerful, especially at the center of the explosion. The power was enough to severely injure a bright moon sword saint who was on full defense. Therefore, the space at the center of the explosion was torn apart. An interspatial ring and the evil dragon sword might have entered the spatial crack and disappeared. Chu Mu couldn't help feeling regretful. That was the spatial ring of the evil dragon Hall's great elder. There must be a lot of treasures inside, especially the evil dragon sword. That was a middle-rank spirit sword. Its value was extraordinary. However, being able to sense it in advance and retreat in time without being affected by the explosion could be considered a blessing. This battle immediately caused Chu Mu's reputation to rise a step further, pushing him to a shocking height. He left the other 6 stars far behind. They were not on the same level at all. The 6 stars were indeed very powerful. However, would they dare to go against a powerful faction like the evil Dragon Hall without any backing? Even if they dared, they had the ability to make the evil Dragon Hall suffer losses again and again. The first time, it was the 2 Hall Masters, a few extraordinary geniuses, and 9 evil dragon secret guards. The second time, it was the 18 evil dragon secret guards, a 3rd elder, and 2 unknown experts. The third time, it was the evil Dragon Hall's first elder. It had to be said that the losses of the evil Dragon Hall were enough to make them go crazy. Everyone, please return. The auction will continue. Chu Mu used his movement technique and quickly returned to the Ironwing camp. He returned to the high platform and said, "I'm very sorry, everyone. The middle rank evil dragon sword is gone. These 2 will still be auctioned." Friendly laughter rang out from below. This battle allowed them to see how powerful Chu Mu was. Many people had the thought that even if they couldn't befriend him, they couldn't become enemies with him. The best way was to befriend Chu Mu. That person just now bid 2 bottles of 4 image transformation pills and 2 bottles of ancient sage breaking pills. Are there any higher bids? If there aren't any, then the first evil dragon sword will belong to this person. Chu Mu said. Of course there are. Other than 2 bottles of 4 image transformation pills and 2 bottles of ancient sage breaking pills. I will also bid a drop of ancient sage treasure blood. A voice rang out. It was the bright moon sword saint of the slaughter blood hall. Ancient sage treasure blood. When the other experts heard this, they were shocked. It was obvious that this ancient sage treasure blood was very powerful. That's right. Ancient sage treasure blood was a treasure that only the slaughter blood hall had. Other than the higher-ups of the slaughter blood hall, no one else knew where ancient sage treasure blood came from. However, they all knew that ancient sage treasure blood was the best treasure for those who cultivated the Saint Body Tao. It could maximize the potential of those who cultivated the Saint Body Tao and strengthen their Saint Body. This ancient sage treasure blood is a treasure that only my slaughter blood hall has. The effect of 1 drop of ancient sage treasure blood is better than 10 ancient sage breaking pills. Also, the ancient sage treasure blood can stimulate the potential of the Saint Body. As for how much is stimulated, it is directly related to the potential of the Saint Body. Also, there are no side effects. The bright moon sword saint of the slaughter blood hall said. Chu Mu was tempted when he heard this. Ancient sage treasure blood. It was an extremely rare treasure for body refinement. As soon as the bright moon sword saint of the slaughter blood hall bid, he directly suppressed all the other bids. No one else dared to bid. Although the value of 1 drop of ancient sage treasure blood couldn't be compared to the evil dragon sword, it was far more valuable with 4 bottles of pills. The bright moon sword saint of the slaughter blood hall clearly wanted to befriend Chu Mu by doing this. In the end, the first evil dragon sword was sold for 2 bottles of 4 image energy transformation pills, 2 bottles of ancient sage breaking pills, and 1 drop of ancient sage treasure blood. Next, it was time for the second evil dragon sword. This was the last evil dragon sword. If one wanted it, they would have to kill the evil dragon palace's first palace master. Therefore, the competition was a bit more intense. Of course, this was also to befriend Chu Mu. After a round of bidding, the last evil dragon sword was bought by the bright moon sword saint of the Zhanlong Hall. He wasn't the idiot dark star sword saint who threatened Chu Mu. Instead, he bought the sword with 2 bottles of 4 image energy transformation pills, 2 bottles of ancient sage breaking pills, and 1 dragon origin pill. 1 dragon origin pill. Although it sounded ordinary, it wasn't. The dragon origin pill was a specialty of the Zhanlong Hall, just like the ancient sage treasure blood of the slaughter blood hall. The ancient sage treasure blood's auxiliary effect was to refine the Saint Body, and its main effect was to stimulate the Saint Body's potential. The main effect of the dragon origin pill was that after consuming it, one's origin energy would be quickly replenished for a period of time. According to the description of the game, it was equivalent to having a blue bottle that automatically replenished one's origin energy. Although it wasn't limitless, once one's origin energy was depleted, the dragon origin pill would immediately be released to replenish it with a thought. It would allow one's origin energy to be constantly replenished during battle, which had a huge impact on the battle. The amount of yuan qi released by a single dragon yuan pill was equivalent to 20 times the amount of yuan qi of an ordinary 9-star saint. Moreover, this was something that one could control. If one wanted to recover, they could do so within a short period of time without any side effects. If one did not want to recover, they could recover slowly. It didn't matter if it was a dark star sword saint, a bright moon sword saint, or a bright sun sword saint. Although they were far more powerful than ordinary peak 9-star saint level masters, their origin energy was also equivalent to peak 9-star saint level masters. It was just that the quality of their origin energy was a few times higher. In other words, the Dragon Origin Pill was equally effective for the top 3 combat powers. In addition, the Dragon Origin Pill had another small effect. After consuming it, even if one didn't use it, it would release traces of pure origin energy and gradually increase the user's cultivation. The efficiency was equivalent to the user's cultivation. Moreover, the Dragon Origin Pill would automatically absorb the origin energy of the heavens and earth to replenish one's energy. This meant that even if one didn't use the Dragon Origin Pill, one could still cultivate all day. When Chumu found out about this, he was stunned. The effect of the Dragon Origin Pill was too heaven-defying. Originally, he had the Dragon Devouring Jade Pendant, but it was a pity that the Dragon Devouring Jade Pendant was only equivalent to the cultivation speed of a peak 6-star saint. Now that Chumu's cultivation was at the late stage of the 8th sky of the immemorial realm, the Dragon Devouring Jade Pendant was no longer of any help to him. Fortunately, a Dragon Origin Pill came. Although it was called a pill, it was also a treasure. Not only could it assist in cultivation, it was also not outdated. It could allow him to use it until the peak of the 9th sky of the immemorial realm. Moreover, if he encountered a high-intensity battle, once his sword origin ran out, he could immediately recover. Chumu compared it. The quality of his divine, desolate sword origin was extremely high, but his cultivation was far from the peak of the 9th sky of the immemorial realm. A Dragon Origin Pill was enough for him to recover his sword origin dozens of times. Everyone, this auction has come to an end. Thank you for your attendance. If there is a chance in the future, I will inform you again. Chumu laughed. When the crowd heard his words, they also burst into laughter. They could all understand the meaning behind Chumu's words. If they killed another expert of the Evil Dragon Palace and obtained the Evil Dragon Sword, they might auction it again. Everyone, I'll be leaving first. Perhaps we'll meet again soon. Chumu said. Soon after, he used his movement technique and transformed into an illusory figure. Without a sound, he instantly distanced himself. The experts also left one after another. Zhang Taijun hurriedly sent people to spread the news that Chumu had left the Iron Wing camp and his whereabouts were unknown. This way, the risk of the Iron Wing camp would be reduced further. Chapter 1827. A simple and crude auction was held in the Iron Wing camp as scheduled. Although there was an unforeseen event, it didn't affect the auction negatively. Instead, it made the auction even more intense, and Chumu's gains were even greater. Chumu had gained a lot in terms of reputation and substance. It could be said that he had returned from a fruitful trip. Sitting in the shuttle, Chumu focused on the Dragon Origin Elixir while driving. After careful inspection, he confirmed that the Dragon Origin Elixir had not been tampered with, as if it had been consumed. Different from other pills, the Dragon Yuan pill didn't melt in his mouth. It didn't even show any signs of melting. Instead, it directly slid into Chumu's body and into his stomach. The Dragon Origin Elixir finally stopped above Chumu's dantian and rotated clockwise. Every time it rotated, it would release a wisp of pure yuan-qi into Chumu's dantian. At the same time, the essence of the world around Chumu's body was drawn into his body and absorbed by the Dragon Origin Elixir. As long as Chumu did not take the initiative to use the Dragon Origin Elixir to recover his sword origin, the Dragon Origin Elixir would exist forever. Of course, if he took the initiative to stimulate the power of the Dragon Origin Elixir to recover his sword origin, the consumed sword origin would not be replenished. This was an irreversible process. Otherwise, the Dragon Origin Elixir would become more important. Chumu smiled as he felt the speed at which the essence of the world was being absorbed and the pure yuan-qi released by the Dragon Origin Elixir. It was the same as his usual cultivation speed, which was the cultivation speed of the late 8th sky of the immemorial realm. The cultivation time was 5 or 6 times longer than usual. 4 bottles of 4 image energy conversion pills should be enough for me to reach the peak of the 8th firmament of immemorial realm. However, I'm still far from reaching the 9th firmament of immemorial realm. For bottles of ancient saint breakthrough pills should be enough for my saint body to reach the peak of the 6th firmament of immemorial realm. At that time, I'll take the ancient saint treasure blood and raise my saint body to the 7th firmament of immemorial realm. Chu Mu had a clear plan in mind. Once Huang Xiaolong's cultivation reached the peak of the 8th level of the Wangu realm and his saint physique reached the 7th level, his strength would skyrocket. By then he would be able to fight against a bright moon sword saint. Perhaps before I leave the land of exile and return to the deep blue world, not only can I raise my Yuan Qi cultivation to the peak of Aeon 9th heaven, but my divine body cultivation can also be greatly improved, Chu Mu thought to himself. His heart was filled with excitement. If his cultivation base reached the peak of the Aeon 9th heavenly layer and his saint physique reached the peak of the 9th heavenly layer, he might be able to fight against a peerless expert. The most important thing right now is to find a safe place to refine the elixir and increase my strength. The flying shuttle flew rapidly across the vast and dry land. In the distance, a figure was flying at a low altitude. The probability of a spatial crack appearing at a low altitude was lower, and the strength of the crack wasn't that high. Experts who had reached the strength of the 3 major combat classes were fearless. However, those who were below the 3 major combat classes still had to obediently travel on the ground. As for the high altitude, not to mention the 3 major combat classes, even experts like the 7 kings wouldn't dare to fly at will unless they had no other choice. Even so, flying at a low altitude was a challenge for the experts of the 3 major combat classes. They wouldn't do it under normal circumstances. They would only do it in an emergency. A spatial crack suddenly appeared in front of the figure. However, he did not dodge it at all. Instead, he slashed out with his sword. The powerful black sword light turned into a sharp claw. With a swipe, the claw tore the spatial crack apart. He was hurrying on his way. All the obstacles in front of him were all destroyed by his sword. This person was the evil Dragon Hall's first palace master, Gu Xingdao. He was in a hurry to rush to the Iron Wing camp to kill Chu Mu. He was in a hurry and was afraid that Chu Mu would escape. Hence, he didn't hesitate to use his energy and fly at a low altitude. He didn't hesitate to use his energy to destroy all the spatial cracks in front of him. His spiritual energy spread out, covering an area of 10,000 meters. Suddenly, Gu Xingdao paused in the air. His eyes shone with an incomparably sharp light and killing intent. He instantly changed direction, and his speed increased by several times. He was like a bolt of lightning that tore through the sky. He was very aggressive. As he slashed out with his sword, an evil dragon roar resounded. A huge claw reached out from the void. It was pitch black, and wisps of black smoke curled under the claw. It soared into the sky and filled the air. It was like the claw of an evil dragon from hell. Under the claw was a flying shuttle. Chu Mu was inside the shuttle. The huge evil dragon claw wanted to crush the flying shuttle and destroy it. Inside the flying shuttle, Chu Mu felt a strong sense of danger. Under his spiritual energy, he immediately felt a huge, smoke-filled, pitch-black dragon claw coming at him. The power it contained was almost suffocating. His expression changed. Chu Mu immediately left his seat and opened the door of the flying shuttle. He turned into a shadow and instantly floated out from the gap between the dragon claw. In the next breath, the pitch-black dragon claw grabbed the 10-meter-long flying shuttle and exerted force. The outer shell, which was tough enough to withstand the full power attack of a peak 9-star saint, was as fragile as paper under the pitch-black dragon claw. Ear-piercing cracking sounds rang out. Under the pitch-black evil dragon's claws, the sturdy flying shuttle twisted, collapsed, cracked, and then shattered into pieces. Under the terrifying power of the evil dragon's claws, it was shattered into pieces. Just as Chu Mu paused, a pitch-black sword light tore through the sky like a crescent moon and slashed down. The black moonlight caused Chu Mu's mind to go into a daze for a moment. Instantly waking up, Chu Mu's expression changed slightly. He immediately used sword chi shadow and shattered the afterimage. At this time, Chu Mu finally saw the person who had attacked. It was a tall, middle-aged man with an indifferent expression. His sideburns were gray, and his eyes were cold. There was not a trace of emotion in them. There was only an extremely cold killing intent that chilled to the bone. Chu Mu had never seen this person before, but that did not stop him from guessing his identity. The familiar-looking evil dragon sword in his hand, the sword technique evil dragon claws, and the tyrannical strength all revealed his identity. The evil dragon hall's first palace master, Gu Xingdao. This was a bright moon sword saint. Moreover, he was a veteran bright moon sword saint. Just from his 2 attacks, one could tell that his strength was extremely terrifying. He was many times stronger than the evil dragon hall's first elder. Silver god equipment, armor. Demon fighter bracers, activate. Sword domain, activate. Heart and sword as one. Realm of emptiness. In an instant, Chu Mu's strength increased once again. His perception of his surroundings increased by more than 10 times. Gu Xingdao turned into a black light and instantly appeared in front of Chu Mu. The evil dragon sword slashed down with endless might. The black light condensed and destroyed everything. The might of this sword was unstoppable. Solitary peak, sword technique. Solitary peak lasts forever. It was like a solitary peak that stood tall on the ground, eternal and indestructible. When the sword slashed down, it was like a sword of darkness and destruction. It directly slashed down on the solitary peak, causing a loud explosion. Cracks appeared on the solitary peak and quickly spread out. However, it still managed to slightly resist the sword of darkness and destruction. Borrowing the power of the slash, Chu Mu quickly retreated. After a portion of the powerful force was neutralized, there was still a portion that continued to attack him. It caused Chu Mu's arms to tremble and become sore and numb. This sword made Chu Mu even more aware of the obvious difference in strength between the 2 of them. Unless Chu Mu could use the Sword God's Descent or the Divine Wilderness Origin Restoration, there was no way he could resist the difference between the peak of the Dark Star level and the Bright Moon level. However, the Divine Desolation Origin returning technique required time, and the ancient blade wouldn't give Chu Mu this time. Moreover, although the Sword God's Descent technique was only used for an instant, after the fight with the Great Elder, the Sword God's Descent technique's power that hadn't recovered much was used up again. In other words, the current Chu Mu could not fight against Gu Xingdao at all. It was true that fighting with a powerhouse was of great benefit to one's improvement, but one had to know how to act according to one's ability. Challenging a powerhouse who was obviously much stronger than oneself and had strong killing intent towards oneself was not a wise choice. Run. Without any hesitation, using the might of Gu Xingdao's powerful slash, Chu Mu quickly retreated. His speed was extremely fast. He used the phantom dragon body and turned into a shadow. Without a sound, he quickly left. Phantom dragon body. Gu Xingdao coldly snorted. His figure flashed as if he could teleport. In an instant, he crossed hundreds of meters and quickly caught up with Chu Mu. The distance between them was getting closer and closer. Chu Mu had no choice but to use his sword light. The meteor-like sword light tore through the sky and turned into a meteor shower of swords that attacked densely. Gu Xingdao waved his evil dragon sword, and a black sword light cut through the meteor shower of swords. It directly shattered the meteor shower of swords and pierced through the rising moon. The absolute difference in strength made the effect of techniques weak. There was not much difference in strength between Bright Moon sword saints. However, there was a clear difference in combat techniques. Gu Xingdao was an experienced Bright Moon sword saint, and he was a terrifying expert that was second only to the peak of the Bright Moon sword saint. Even in a super force like the Zhanlong House, There were very few experts who could defeat Gu Xingdao. There were only 2 or 3 of them. Without stopping, Gu Xingdao unsheathed his sword. A horrifying, huge, dark, evil dragon that was more than 100 meters long appeared. Its entire body was covered in black smoke. Thick smoke billowed as if it had come from a battlefield in hell. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws. A ball of black light gathered in its huge mouth and turned into a pitch-black crescent moon. The light of the crescent moon sprinkled down, and everything in the surroundings seemed to become dreamy and blurry. Chu Mu's mind was instantly affected, and he was in a trance for a moment. The pitch-black crescent moon suddenly fell down. Chapter 1828. This sword was another sword technique created by the Evil Dragon Hall's first palace master, Gu Xingdao. As the sword struck out, a black crescent moon fell, emitting a unique aura that affected the surrounding space and affected one's mind. Even with Chu Mu's powerful mind and firm will, he was affected in an instant and became dazed. To experts, a moment of daze was enough to be fatal. The terrifying black crescent moon contained shocking power. As it fell, one strike was enough to take his life. At this critical moment, Chu Mu was clear-headed. He did not panic and raised his sword. Moon Severing Art's 6th art, Waning Moon. The crescent moon hung in the sky, its deep white radiance illuminating everything. An area of time was instantly frozen. Even if it was only for an instant, the black crescent moon still slashed down with terrifying might. However, Chu Mu managed to buy an instant for himself to escape. Gu Xingdao was slightly surprised. He originally thought that even if his sword could not kill Chu Mu, it could at least injure him. He did not expect that it could not injure him at all. You are indeed a heaven-defying monster. Unfortunately, you should not have made an enemy of my evil dragon hall, Gu Xingdao said, implying that Chu Mu must die. Indeed, if one was not at the Bright Moon Realm, no one could guarantee that they could escape safely from the pursuit of a powerful Bright Moon Sword Saint. From the looks of it, the probability of Chu Mu being killed by Gu Xingdao was very high. For a moment, Chu Mu did not know what to do to escape. He could only erupt with all his strength, perfectly combining the power of sword origin and physical strength. He also used the vibration art to shake all his muscles, pushing his body forward and using the phantom dragon body. Only then could he barely maintain a certain distance from Gu Xingdao. However, the distance between them was constantly shrinking. Gu Xingdao also continuously attacked with his sword, using powerful sword techniques to attack Chu Mu. Kill! Kill! After making up his mind, Chu Mu also rose into the air. This was the first time he flew in the air after entering the land of exile. However, Chu Mu would never forget that feeling. It was just flying at a low altitude. With Chu Mu's strength, even if he encountered a spatial crack, he would be able to react quickly. Under the state of heart and sword as one, Chu Mu could clearly capture any danger that appeared within a 5-meter radius. Then he would react, shatter, or evade it. One fled with all his might, while the other chased with all his might. The two figures flew past each other at an altitude of 10 meters. Who is that? I don't know. It's so fast. He's actually flying in the air. He's simply courting death. You'd better shut up. Judging from their speed and the aura they're emitting, they're definitely experts of the top 3 in terms of battle prowess. Don't get yourself into trouble. As soon as they heard the 3 words, 3 great powers, the group of people was shocked and fell silent. Experts of the 3 great combat powers were existences that they had to look up to in their entire lives. Any one of them could easily wipe them all out with a casual strike. With a respectful gaze, he looked in the direction where the 2 figures had left, not daring to say anything. As he flew at a low altitude at full speed, Chu Mu's mind turned rapidly. Do I have to use the sword essence? Chu Mu thought to himself. After this period of time, the ordinary sword essence had successfully transformed into a brand new sword essence. The aura of the transformed sword essence was extremely shocking. Its destructive power was at least 10 times that of the eternal sword essence. Chu Mu estimated that if he used the brand new sword essence, his strength would be enough to contend with the ancient saber. However, the brand new sword essence was too little. Moreover, although the trace of ultimate destructive power was weak, it had not been completely consumed. It still had a terrifying destructive power. Therefore, even if Chu Mu used the brand new sword essence, he could only use it a few times. At that time, the sword essence would be destroyed by the terrifying ultimate destructive power and collapse. As for the eternal sword essence, although it was undamaged, it could not be compared with the brand new sword essence in terms of destructive power. After all, the brand new sword essence was born for destruction. It's not to the point of no return. I won't use the sword essence first. Then the second method is to fly at high altitudes. Chu Mu's eyes flashed with a sharp light as he came up with a very bold idea. Flying at high altitudes was 100 times more dangerous than flying at low altitudes. Any spatial crack had fatal dangers. If one was not careful, even the 7 kings could be killed. Therefore, if he chose to fly at high altitudes, Chu Mu would have to bear a great risk. Of course, the evil dragon hall's first palace master, Ancient Saber, would also have to bear a great risk. I have the realm of silence and the heart as one with the sword. My perception of everything around me has increased by dozens of times. This is definitely where my advantage lies, Chu Mu thought to himself. Soon after, he made his decision, flying at high altitudes. With a boom, he instantly flew diagonally upwards. His speed was so fast that Ancient Saber, who was chasing behind him, was stunned. Flying at high altitudes. Ancient Saber sneered, "You're courting death." As his voice fell, Ancient Saber unsheathed his sword. The evil dragon's sword slashed out, turning into countless pitch-black sword light. They were like crescent moons as they bombarded Chu Mu. Chu Mu's figure flickered, spreading out like smoke. He had used the essence of the ghost dragon perplexing track and the ghost dragon shadowless body. Combined with sword chi, he dodged Ancient Saber's sword. "Even if we're high altitudes, I won't let you go." Ancient Saber saw that Chu Mu had dodged his sword light and was flying at high altitudes. He was worried that Chu Mu would escape, so he also followed. Flying at high altitudes was extremely dangerous, but it did not mean certain death. If one was lucky enough or had enough ability, they might be able to survive. However, under normal circumstances, no one would be willing to take such a risk. Chu Mu wanted to escape, while Ancient Saber wanted to kill Chu Mu. The two of them chose one after the other and soared into the sky. With the realm of tranquility and the heart sword as one, Chu Mu's control of his surroundings was extremely precise. Even the slightest fluctuation could not escape his perception. As soon as a spatial crack appeared, Chu Mu immediately noticed it. Chu Mu immediately dodged. At high altitudes, the space gave people a feeling that it was very unstable and weak. It was as if it would be affected or even torn apart if one used too much strength. In a state of absolute calmness, Chu Mu was as precise as a robot. However, the danger at high altitudes was too great, so he had to reduce his speed. Similarly, Ancient Saber would also reduce his speed. Otherwise, he might be swallowed up by the spatial crack before he could catch up. Ancient Saber did not have the realm of tranquility and the heart sword as one state. Although his perception was very strong, it was still much weaker than Chu Mu's. This scene was seen by another group of people, and they were all dumbfounded. They could not imagine who would be so fierce as to dare to fly at high altitudes. It was simply like an ordinary person dancing on the tip of a blade. He was hovering on the edge of death. It was very likely that he would step into a bottomless abyss, consigned to eternal damnation, and not even his bones would remain. His perception was raised to the extreme, and his spiritual energy was rapidly consumed. Even his primordial spirit was somewhat affected. "I can't stay here for too long. Otherwise, it will be very dangerous. Chu-mu thought to himself. He was trying to find a suitable time to escape from the sky. It would be best if he could shake off Ancient Saber, who was constantly chasing after him. Otherwise, it would be too dangerous to be chased by a bright moon sword saint. Ancient Saber's eyes were extremely cold. His killing intent was so dense that it almost materialized. He locked onto Chu-mu. Once again, he slashed out with the evil dragon sword. Immediately, black slashes appeared in the space under the sword. This was a phenomenon that occurred when the space was not stable enough. The black sword light was like a crescent moon. It slashed out and directly tore the void apart, emitting an incomparably terrifying aura. As soon as the black sword light entered Chu-mu's perception range, he immediately dodged. Suddenly, a spatial crack appeared beside him. Chu-mu dodged again. He narrowly avoided it, but he was so frightened that he broke out in cold sweat. Dangerous, it was too dangerous. If one was affected by a spatial crack, there were usually two possibilities. The first was to die on the spot, and the second was to be swallowed by the spatial crack. As for where one would go after being swallowed by the spatial crack, it was unknown. Perhaps one would die in the spatial crack. Perhaps one would not die, but one would continue to drift. Perhaps if one was lucky enough, one would appear in another spatial crack in another place. Everything was full of variables. No one could be sure. Ancient Saber's speed suddenly increased and approached Chu-mu. After Chu-mu sensed it, he also increased his speed and maintained a distance from Ancient Saber. I don't believe that I can't kill you, Ancient Saber thought. He was incomparably furious. Killing a Dark Star Sword Saint was actually so difficult. This made him gradually lose his patience. His anger soared to the heavens, intertwining with his killing intent. He poured his energy into the evil dragon sword. The evil dragon sword suddenly trembled. The red evil dragon patterns on the sword seemed to have been activated. It let out a roar filled with killing intent. It was like the fury of an azure dragon. Following that, the red patterns lit up one by one, releasing an intense light. In the blink of an eye, the sword was wrapped up and turned into a red ray of light, rapidly expanding. Not long after, a 2-meter-long evil flood dragon filled with a destructive aura appeared. It was red and black. Go! Gu Xingdao pushed his palm forward. The 2-meter-long evil flood dragon transformed into a sword light and shot towards Chu-mu at an astonishing speed. Wherever it passed, the thin space was like a piece of land plowed by an ox. Cracks appeared one after another as the sword light continued forward. The evil dragon's speed was too fast. In the blink of an eye, it appeared behind Chu-mu. Chu-mu sensed it and immediately reacted, quickly dodging. However, with a loud boom, the evil dragon's power exploded and shattered the void. Cracks appeared in the void, covering an area of 100 meters. Although Chu-mu sensed it and quickly dodged, he was still a step too late. The void collapsed bit by bit, turning into a huge black hole. It produced a terrifying suction force that directly swallowed Chu-mu's body, causing him to disappear. Chapter 1829. Hundreds of meters high in the sky, a huge black hole continued to expand. Cracks could be seen on the edges of the black hole, and they looked like saw teeth. The horrifying destructive presence continued to spread out as if a horrifying ancient beast was waking up. It opened its mouth and wanted to devour the sky, the ground, and the entire world. In the blink of an eye, the pitch-black darkness expanded from 100 meters to 1,000 meters, and it was still expanding. It was like a gigantic vacuum cleaner, and the ground below was affected, sucked in, and swallowed. Sand and stones flew up rapidly, and the ground cracked inch by inch, turning into dust. What is that? Spatial crack. Impossible. How can there be such a huge spatial crack? After seeing it, their faces changed color and they screamed. Such a spatial crack was too horrifying. It could easily destroy an entire city and turn it into nothingness. The masters were all shocked, and they looked at the huge spatial crack with serious expressions. Although spatial cracks are common in the sky, there shouldn't be such a huge spatial crack, a master said with a serious expression. There is only one possibility. A bright moon sword saint said in a deep voice, "The space in the sky is very weak, and a 9-star saint's attack can break it open. However, a 9-star saint doesn't have the power to go up to the sky. It must be a master at least at the level of a 3-star saint. There must be a master at the level of a 3-star saint attacking from high up in the sky, and it caused the space to collapse." The spatial crack eventually formed a spatial collapse. When the spatial crack expanded to a radius of 3,000 meters, it finally stopped expanding, allowing everyone to relax. Otherwise, if it continued to expand, the consequences would be very serious. It would probably affect everyone's survival. Fortunately, the expansion had stopped. With the self-healing ability of the space, it would slowly return to normal. However, the collapse of this 3,000 meters wide space was located in a high-altitude area with many spatial cracks. It would take a long time for it to completely return to normal. Because of the spatial collapse, the spatial cracks in the sky were more likely to appear, and it was more dangerous. Gu Xingdao quickly retreated. His long robe was affected by the spatial cracks, and it was torn into pieces. He looked very miserable. His face was pale, and there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. It was the result of overexerting his strength. Moreover, his mind was also damaged. However, he also successfully left the high altitude and landed at a low altitude before quickly flying away. Staring at the collapsing pitch-black space, at such a close distance, even Gu Yingdao, a bright moon elite, felt his heart tremble. He had seen with his own eyes that Chumu had been swallowed by the spatial collapse. If it had been him, he would have died without a doubt. Perhaps even his bones would have turned into nothingness. Moreover, Chumu's strength was inferior to his. What a pity! My evil dragon's sword. Gu Xingdao muttered. Although he didn't receive any damage from Chumu's attack this time, he had suffered a great loss. One had to know that the evil dragon sword was personally nurtured by him. It took him over 1,000 years to raise it to a mid-grade spiritual sword. Now, it had been swallowed by the spatial collapse along with Chumu. The blood at the corner of his mouth was from his mind. Why was his mind injured? Because the evil dragon sword was closely related to him. If the evil dragon sword was damaged or even destroyed, his mind would also be injured. Even such a sturdy evil dragon sword was destroyed, let alone Chumu. No matter what, Chumu was dead now. This thorn in his side, this great worry was finally dead. Although the evil dragon hall had suffered a great loss, its foundation was still there. After recuperating for 100 years, it could recover again. At most, it would be better to keep a low profile for the next 100 years. However, Gu Xingdao revealed a smile. When the news of Chumu's death spread, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. At that time, the evil dragon hall's reputation would grow. It might not even take 100 years for them to recover. After making such a decision, Gu Xingdao quickly left. He spread the news all the way back to the evil dragon hall. What? Chumu is dead? Chumu died under the pursuit of the evil dragon hall's Lord Gu Xingdao. This can't be true, right? Indeed, just as Gu Xingdao predicted, once the news of Chumu being chased to death by him spread, it immediately caused a huge commotion. Everyone's first reaction was disbelief. After all, Chumu's strength had been proven time and time again. He was extremely powerful. However, when the news mentioned what had happened, everyone had no choice but to believe it. So such a huge spatial collapse was caused by the battle between Chumu and Gu Xingdao. Even the 7 kings would not be able to escape being sucked into that spatial collapse. Even if they were lucky enough to not die, they would have to drift in the endless void. Who knows where they would end up? Then what's the difference between that and death to us? Who would have thought that the final outcome would be like this? The evil dragon Hall's Lord Palace Lord Strength is truly too terrifying. He was not sucked into that spatial collapse and even came back unscathed. From the looks of it, the evil dragon Hall's Lord Palace Lord Strength is probably at the peak of the Bright Moon rank. He probably has other life-saving methods. For a moment, Gu Xingdao's strength was overestimated. The result was that the evil dragon hall was in the limelight for a moment. Those factions that had originally planned to move against the evil dragon hall and replace it had no choice but to pause their plans and wait and see. This undoubtedly gave the evil dragon hall a chance to breathe. Dead? Bai Chun was startled when he heard the news. He was still planning to work hard to increase his strength before fighting with Chu Mu. Although the current Chu Mu was shockingly powerful and was known as the undisputed number one of the 7 stars, the 6 stars were not inferior to him. Although they kept a low profile, their strength had been constantly increasing. It was all for the sake of having a showdown with Chu Mu. Unfortunately, he was actually swallowed by the spatial collapse. Even the 7 kings did not dare to endure that kind of power, let alone a dark star sword saint. For a moment, the 6 stars seemed to have lost their target and lost a lot of motivation. Impossible, the young master will not die. I will wait here for his return, Lin Biruo said firmly in Long Yunkong's manor in Bloodbath City. We will also stay, the Waning Moon Sword Saint and the Rock Sword Saint said after looking at each other. Previously, they were forced by the pressure of life and death and had no choice but to swear an oath to be Chu Mu's guards for 100 years. After that, they accepted Chu Mu's sword guidance and were sincerely convinced. Even if Chu Mu really died now, they would still stay and protect Lin Biruo until she grew up. In fact, after they became Chu Mu's guards, they realized that the reason why Chu Mu wanted them to become guards was to protect Lin Biruo. Then, was Chu Mu really dead? After being swallowed, Chu Mu was very lucky and did not directly die. He entered the spatial crack and drifted in the depths of space. Everywhere he looked was darkness. He could not see or hear anything. It was filled with a desolation that could make people go crazy. It was fine for a short period of time, but for a long time it was unbearable. It was a kind of torture to the mind and body because it was very cold. Chu Mu had to circulate his sword origin to resist the cold. His sword origin was consumed very quickly, so he had to use the power of the Dragon Yuan pill to replenish it. After an unknown period of time, Chu Mu saw a light. He rushed over and rushed into the light. His body shook and he seemed to lose consciousness. Today's luck is good. I went out and actually found a living person. Let me see. His vitality is abundant. This saint body must be very strong. Not bad. Let's quickly bring him back. This is good fertilizer. When Chu Mu slowly woke up, he heard a conversation. However, his current state was very strange. It was as if he was half asleep and half awake. It was very difficult for him to wake up completely. He could only wake up bit by bit. He felt as if his body was being carried and constantly swaying. As Chu Mu's consciousness gradually awakened, he heard even more information and analyzed it in his gradually awakening brain. First, he was not dead and had left the spatial turbulence. Second, although he did not know where he was, he could tell from the conversation that he was an intelligent creature or even a human. In this way, Chu Mu was even more relieved. Third, he was now picked up by someone and seemed to be treated as some kind of fertilizer. This was not a good thing. He had to recover as soon as possible. Otherwise, it would be a tragedy if he was really treated as fertilizer. Time passed little by little. Finally, Chu Mu felt that he was almost completely awake after being put down. There seemed to be people being carried in continuously. This also bought some time for Chu Mu to recover. He finally woke up and opened his eyes. He immediately felt a wave of weakness in his body. However, he was slowly recovering. He opened his eyes and quickly looked around. This was a cave just like a karst cave. He was lying on the ground, and there were many other people lying side by side with him. There were at least a dozen of them, and all of them had their eyes closed and seemed to be unconscious. In the distance, there were still people carrying in unconscious people and throwing them on the ground. Looking at the other side, there was a pool. It was about 100 square meters in size. The water in the pool was actually red. It was as red as blood. No, Chumu could be sure that it was blood because there was a trace of bloody smell coming from the pool. Apart from that, there were also black lotuses growing in the blood pool. Chapter 1830. There were a total of 9 black lotuses growing on top of the scarlet blood pool. Among them, 4 of the lotuses had their buds tightly closed and had yet to bloom. 3 of the lotuses had a small part of their buds blooming. One was mostly blooming, and one was completely blooming. Chumu, who was slowly recovering, could feel the aura fluctuations released from the 9 black lotuses. It was a very powerful aura fluctuation, causing Chumu's blood to accelerate and his strength to gradually recover. Although he didn't know what these lotuses were, Chumu was sure that they were treasures related to body transformation. About 100 people were brought in, including Chumu. Then 2 people each carried an unconscious person to the side of the blood pool. Without any hesitation, they used the short swords in their hands to cut open the blood vessels on the necks of the unconscious people. Blood sprayed out and splashed into the blood pool. The 2 people threw the people whose blood vessels had been cut open, their heads facing outwards, and their blood continued to flow into the blood pool. One after another, the unconscious people were brought to the side of the blood pool. Their blood vessels were cut open, and their bodies trembled and convulsed. This scene made everyone who saw it feel their hair stand on end. Chumu also understood that the scarlet color in the pool was indeed blood. Using blood to grow those black lotuses, he didn't know what kind of lotuses they were, but they were so strange. At this time, one of the people walked towards Chumu and reached out to grab Chumu's calf. At the same time, Chumu also recovered a part of his strength. With a thought, the person's hand suddenly grabbed empty air. Looking again, Chumu wasn't lying on the ground, but was standing in front of him. "You're awake." The person was suddenly startled, and then immediately grinned, then died. As soon as his voice fell, the short sword in his hand immediately stabbed out. A cold light flashed, and a murderous aura filled the air. The direct and fierce attack didn't work. Instead, it was caught. That's right, Chumu only stretched out 2 fingers to clamp it, and it didn't move at all. The person who wielded the sword had the strength of a 3-star martial saint. Unfortunately, Chumu's strength was even stronger. Even if he had only recovered a small portion of his strength, it was still not something that the other party could compare to. "Men, come quickly!" That person opened his mouth and immediately roared. Instantly, the others were alerted and all of them hurried over. "Stop!" The people who rushed over immediately drew their swords and pointed them at Chumu when they saw the situation. "Who are you?" The person who seemed to be the leader asked in a deep voice. It was a middle-aged man wearing blood-red armor. Chumu could tell from the aura that he was a 9-star saint. That's not important. What's important is where we are. I hope someone can answer it for me. Chumu said unhurriedly as he released 2 fingers. That person hurriedly withdrew his sword and quickly retreated, distancing himself from Chumu. Where was this? This was what Chumu was most concerned about after he woke up. He had to figure out where he was before he could make any arrangements. "You don't need to know. Take him down." The middle-aged man waved his hand, and a group of warriors wearing blood-red armor immediately rushed up from behind him. Each of them had the strength of a 7-star martial saint. They held blood-red swords in their hands and moved quickly, forming a circle. They surrounded Chumu and began to attack him. The blood-red sword light was simple and fierce. It came from all directions without mercy, as if it wanted to cut Chumu into pieces in an instant. Even though Chumu's strength had not recovered, he could still deal with such an attack calmly. His figure flashed, and he was as agile as a fish. He shuttled back and forth among the blood-red sword light, avoiding the streaks of blood-red sword light. The middle-aged man was shocked. He could actually dodge the attacks of his subordinates so calmly. Such strength was definitely not an ordinary cultivator. In the next breath, a sword light lit up among the blood-red sword light. As it flickered, it was like a meteor falling from the sky, shooting in all directions. The guards were pierced by the meteor and died one by one. In the blink of an eye, more than a dozen guards fell to the ground. There was a bloody hole between their eyebrows, and their primordial spirits were shattered. They couldn't be more dead. Blood flowed out, as if it was affected by an invisible force, and gradually flowed into the blood pool. Since he had already drawn his sword, Chumu didn't hold back. His figure flashed, and he used the ghost dragon perplexing track. His whereabouts were unpredictable, and he couldn't be tracked. He drew his sword, and the sword light flashed, taking away one life after another. In the end, only the 9-star martial saint was left. "All right, now we can have a good talk," Chumu said, as if he had done something very simple. It was as if he had just shaken off the dust on his clothes. The middle-aged man's entire body was shaking. He held the sword in his hand, but he didn't dare to attack. Terrifying, it was too terrifying. In that instant, even with his 9-star martial saint strength, he couldn't catch a glimpse of Yi Chen's figure. All of his subordinates were killed. "Tell me, where is this place?" "You don't have to tell me. I will go outside and ask someone." As he said that, Chumu lightly flicked the sword in his hand, and he was about to draw his sword. "Stop!" The middle-aged man finally reacted and hurriedly shouted, "This is the evil Lotus Cave." "Be more specific," Chumu said, and a trace of killing intent locked onto the middle-aged man. "This is the evil Lotus Cave of our marionette sect. It is a secret place specially used to grow the black blood lotus." Marionette sect. Black blood lotus. Chumu had never heard of these before. He suddenly thought of something. "I must have come out from a spatial crack. This means that this place is most likely not within the range of the 5 cities." After another round of questioning, Chumu finally confirmed that this place was indeed not within the range of the 5 cities. It was far away from the 5 cities, deeper into the land of exile. It was a place that was almost at the end of the land of exile, called Sin City. After going even deeper, Chumu finally realized where he had come to. He immediately rejoiced. He was swallowed by the spatial crack, but he didn't die. He drifted in the spatial turbulence, but he didn't die either. In the end, he even found a chance to rush out of the spatial turbulence. He wasn't sent to another place. He was still within the range of the land of exile, but it was a bit far from the 5 cities. It was fine as long as he was still within the land of exile. If he had been sent to another world, that would have been depressing. Many, many years ago, Sin City was founded by a group of experts who had offended one of the 5 great cities. Unable to fight back, they had no choice but to leave and venture deeper into the land of exile. After experiencing many dangers, they finally arrived here. As more and more people came, it gradually grew into a city. Although its history was shorter than that of the 5 cities, it had still existed for over 1 million years. The marionette sect was one of the forces in Sin City. According to the middle-aged man, the marionette sect used to be called the marionette sect, which belonged to the 5 cities. However, after being surrounded and attacked, only a few people managed to escape. Coincidentally, they came to Sin City and slowly developed. After learning the lesson of the 5 cities, the marionette sect changed its name to the marionette sect. It sounded a level lower, and they were much more low-key in order to avoid the tragedy of the 5 cities being surrounded and attacked again. After 10,000 years of development, the marionette sect gradually became stronger and stronger, becoming one of the top 10 forces in Sin City. The evil Lotus Cave was a secret cave used by the marionette sect to cultivate the black blood lotus. The black blood lotus was one of the main materials for the marionette sect to cultivate the indestructible marionette body. It was extremely precious. It was said that the black blood lotus could be used to refine an elixir called the Ancient Saint Blood Lotus Elixir. It could be used to refine the saint body. It was suitable for high-level saint body, especially level 7 saint body. In order to survive, the 9-star saint body had already told Chumu everything. Since he had already told Chumu, he might as well tell him more. He could vaguely guess that Chumu had just arrived here from the 5 cities by accident. "Do you know how to return to the 5 cities?" asked Chumu. "I don't know." "Who knows?" asked Chumu again. "Perhaps our sect leader knows," answered the middle-aged man. "Tell me about the sect leader of the marionette sect and the strength of the experts in Sin City." Chumu said, based on the situation, he would stay in Sin City for a while. Knowing the enemy and knowing oneself was the key to victory. "Our sect leader is a bright moon sword saint." The 9-star saint body immediately said, "Is there any special way to pick the black blood lotus?" asked Chumu again. "Just pick it," answered the middle-aged man immediately. He was very cooperative. "Okay," said Chumu as he drew his sword. With a flash of sword light, the middle-aged man was killed. His face was full of shock. He had already cooperated so much. Why did he have to kill him? However, at the beginning, Chumu didn't promise that he wouldn't kill him. If he killed him, he would just kill him. He didn't want the news to leak out. This evil lotus cave is a secret cave of the marionette sect. It is used to cultivate the black blood lotus. Usually there is only a guard captain and a group of guards guarding it. Only when the black blood lotus matures will someone come to pick the lotus seeds. Right now, there is only one that is completely mature. One is about to mature, and the other 7 are not yet mature. I think someone will come to pick the mature lotus seed soon. Chumu thought to himself, "I will use this time to recover my strength. Then, I will refine 4 bottles of 4 image energy conversion pellets to increase my strength as much as possible." After making up his mind, Chumu first waved his hand and pushed all the people who had been killed to the side of the blood pool, allowing their blood to flow into the blood pool and nourish the black blood evil lotuses, allowing them to quickly mature. As for the people who hadn't been killed but were still unconscious, Chumu temporarily ignored them. He stretched out his hand and grasped the air. Immediately, lotus seeds shot out from the mature black blood lotus seed pod one after another. There were 12 lotus seeds in total. They looked black and shiny, but if one looked closely, they would be able to see a red halo. It was very beautiful. Chapter 1831. There were 12 lotus seeds, each of them beautiful and flawless. Chumu sensed them carefully. He could feel a strong energy fluctuation within them. It was similar to the energy fluctuation of blood chi. It's a pity that I can't consume them directly. Chumu thought. The lotus seeds would either be used to cultivate the indestructible puppet body or to concoct the ancient sage blood lotus pill. Consuming them directly would be ineffective. The black blood lotus leaf that had its seeds plucked, withered, and fell into the blood pool. Only a bare seed was left, absorbing the energy of the blood pool and slowly recovering. Speaking of which, this thing was very evil. It was cultivated with the blood of a saint expert. After keeping the 12 lotus seeds, Chumu's strength was almost fully recovered. After adjusting his breath for a while, he set up a warning seal at the entrance of the black blood lotus cave. Chumu took out the 4 forms vitality transformation pill and started refining it. When he faced Gu Xing Dao that day, the difference in strength was obvious. He was no match for Gu Xing Dao. Chumu's cultivation was at the late stage of the immemorial 8th level, and his saint body was at the early stage of the 6th level. Thus, Chumu's refining speed had increased. In just half a day, he had refined 1 4-image transformation pill, and his sword energy had increased slightly. Chumu continued to refine 1 pill at a time. It wasn't that he couldn't refine more pills, but that he couldn't be interrupted. This wasn't a safe place, so he naturally had to hold back. At this time, among the unconscious people, another person's eyelids twitched. He was about to wake up. When Chu Mu refined the second Four Forms Vitality Transformation pill, that person also woke up. His body moved like a nimble cat, and he quickly jumped up from the ground. His hands flashed with cold light, and the sound of air being sliced rang out. Cold light surrounded his body, and it was incomparably sharp. This meant that this person had rich battle experience. As soon as he woke up, he immediately sensed that something was wrong. He immediately drew his sword to protect himself. However, he didn't receive any attack. He stopped and quickly looked around. His eyes fell on Chu Mu. His body flashed and turned into 3 shadows, flashing with cold light from 3 different directions, and attacked Chu Mu. Chu Mu had already finished refining the pill. His body moved, and he directly dodged the cold light's attack. Soon after, he flicked his finger, and his finger energy broke through the air, shattering the cold light and sending that person flying. It was a woman. She didn't look very old, but it was hard to tell her actual age. After all, she was a saint expert. Being knocked flying by Chu Mu's finger, this woman was fully aware of the difference in strength between them. However, she didn't lose her composure. Who are you? Why am I here? Are you the one who captured me? What's your purpose? The moment he opened his mouth, he asked 4 consecutive questions. I'm the same as you. Chu Mu only responded. The same as me? The woman's eyes widened. Could it be that you were captured as well? Something like that, Chu Mu said. What is going on? The woman asked with her eyes wide open. Chu Mu quickly told her what happened. You've killed everyone here, Yuzichin said. The woman's eyes widened again. Immediately anger flashed in her eyes. She almost gritted her teeth and said in a low voice, Damn marionette sect! How dare they capture me and use me as fertilizer? I, Tang Chinchua, won't let this go. Thank you, big brother. My name is Tang Chinchua. May I ask what your name is? Tang Chinchua asked with a sweet smile. Strictly speaking, her life was saved by Chu Mu. If it weren't for Chu Mu, she would be like those corpses beside the blood pool. Her blood would flow into the blood pool and become nutrients for the black blood lotus. She would be dead. Her identity would be useless. Indeed, saint cultivators had primordial spirits. However, after they were captured, they were all in a coma. They wouldn't be able to wake up for a certain period of time. When they were unconscious, their blood would be drained and their consciousness would weaken. In the end, they wouldn't be able to wake up. When their consciousness wasn't awake, their primordial spirits wouldn't move at all. Chu Mu. Chu Mu glanced at Tang Chinchua. His intuition told him that this woman wasn't an ordinary cultivator. However, Chu Mu didn't care. I'll call you Big Brother Chu, Tang Chinchua said, as if they were close friends. Big Brother Chu, let's leave this place quickly. Otherwise, when the people of the marionette sect arrive, we'll be in danger. As long as we leave this place and return to the Tang clan, I'll tell my grandfather about this. My grandfather will definitely not let the marionette sect off. It seemed that the Tang clan that Tang Chinchua belonged to was even stronger than the marionette sect. In that case, it should also be one of the top 10 clans in Xinyan City. I plan to stay here for a while. When the black blood lotus matures, I'll harvest its seeds before leaving. Chu Mu said. The lotus seeds were treasures that could be used to concoct the ancient saint blood lotus pellet. The ancient saint blood lotus pellet was a pill that was suitable for 7th level saint bodies. It could even be used for 8th level saint bodies. It was a good opportunity to increase one's strength. Although the origin of the black blood lotus was evil, Chu Mu didn't care. There were many other ingredients that were even more difficult to accept than the black blood lotus. Tang Chinchua glanced at the black blood lotus that hadn't fully bloomed yet, then looked at Chu Mu. She nodded and said, All right, Big Brother Chu, I'll wait with you. Tang Chinchua was very clear that this was the evil lotus cave. It was a secret cave where the marionette sect cultivated the black blood lotus. It was definitely very secretive. Although all the guards had been killed by Chu Mu, they would definitely encounter other people of the marionette sect outside. With her strength, it was impossible for her to leave the territory of the marionette sect. At that time, she wouldn't be able to take revenge. She couldn't see through Chu Mu, so she didn't know how strong he was. However, she thought that he should be very strong, at least many times stronger than her. If she could team up with him, the chances of escaping would be higher. Therefore, Tang Qianxue and Chu Mu continued to stay in the cave. Chu Mu was waiting for the second black blood lotus to mature while consuming the Four Forms energy transformation pellet to increase his cultivation base. Tang Qianxue was also cultivating. Although she was very curious about Chu Mu's identity and background, she didn't ask too many questions. Only by doing so would she not be annoying. Time passed day by day, and the second black blood lotus continued to bloom. It was getting closer and closer to maturity. The other people who were captured also gradually woke up. Some of them wanted to leave, but they were stopped by Chu Mu. Once they left, they would definitely die. This wasn't the main point. The main point was that they would attract the attention of the marionette sect in advance. For those who insisted on leaving, Chu Mu showed no mercy. He killed them with a single sword strike and used them as fertilizer. To him, this wasn't a burden at all. To a certain extent, those who insisted on leaving were his enemies. If they were his enemies, there was no need to show mercy. On the 10th day, it was Chu Mu's 10th day in the Evil Lotus Cave. He had refined 2 bottles of Four Forms energy transformation pellet, and his sword origin had improved significantly. He was getting closer and closer to the peak of the 8th layer of the immemorial realm. "Where are they? Are they all dead?" shouted a voice from outside. After that, a figure rushed into the cave. When he saw Chu Mu and the others, he was stunned. This person was wearing a black robe, and his chi was at the peak of the 9-star saint realm. He was extremely powerful. "What's going on? Who are you?" In an instant, the person realized that the situation wasn't right. He unsheathed his sword and slashed out. A tyrannical sword light broke through the air, turning into tiny dots. It was like a rainstorm, densely packed and merciless. "Get out of the way!" Many people shouted. However, the sword attack of a 9-star saint was extremely powerful. None of the people who were covered by the sword light were able to avoid it. They were all killed. Blood flowed all over the ground. It was attracted by the power of the blood pool. It quickly flowed into the blood pool and became nutrients for it. In the blink of an eye, including Chu Mu and Tang Qianxue, there were originally over 30 people, but now there were only 10 left. Tang Qianxue's face was deathly pale. Although she had an extraordinary background, her strength wasn't high enough. A peak 9-star Saint Realm expert could easily kill her 1,000 times over. The remaining people were all trembling in fear. They were all ordinary cultivators. Regardless of strength or will, the difference was too great. Only Chu Mu's expression didn't change. He was as calm as the clouds and wind. The person who came pointed his sword at Chu Mu. His killing intent was cold, and he locked onto Chu Mu. "Speak, what's going on?" "You're here to harvest the seeds of the black blood lotus, right? Kill those people." Chu Mu casually said. "Kill them all." The person was dumbfounded. Then his killing intent soared. "You deserve to die." The sword transformed into a beam of light, tearing through the sky with lightning speed, aiming to kill Chu Mu. "Big brother Chu, be careful!" Tang Qianxue screamed. Before the screams disappeared, another sword light lit up. This time it was even more resplendent, but it was also very faint. Under the illumination of the sword light of the peak 9-star Saint Realm expert directly dissipated. It was like snow melting under the scorching sun. Following that, the sword light pierced through and killed him. Chu Mu's left hand made a grabbing motion as he grabbed a Yuan spirit. A single sword, just a single sword attack, was enough to kill a peak 9-star Saint Realm expert. How was this possible? Could it be that Big Brother Chu is a top 3 battle force expert? Tang Chinchua was dumbfounded. Any expert of the 3 major powers was extremely powerful and had a very high status in Xinyan City. Not to mention the experts of the 3 major powers. Even the 9-star saints usually had a good status, let alone the 9-star saints who were at the peak of the 9-star saints. After killing the top 3 battle force expert with a single sword attack and putting away his Yuan spirit, Chu Mu went to harvest the 2nd black blood lotus seed. Let's go, let's leave. Chu Mu said to Tang Chinchua as he strode towards the entrance of the cave. Okay, Big Brother Chu. Tang Chinchua reacted. However, before she left, she attacked with her sword. Sword Qi shot out, instantly destroying all 9 black blood lotuses. Chu Mu couldn't stop her in time. Chapter 1832. What a pity, murmured Chu Mu as he looked at the 9 lotuses that had been destroyed by Tang Chinchua's sword light. The reason why he didn't destroy them was because he wanted to come back in the future before he left Sin City to see if he could get more lotus seeds. Now that Tang Chinchua had destroyed the lotuses, Chu Mu wouldn't have the chance to come back again. Of course, the marionette sect would also lose a chance to come back. The losses would be huge. It was completely possible to imagine Puppet Sect's upper echelon flying into a rage after finding out that the 9 black blood evil lotuses had been completely destroyed. Chu Mu shook his head and got rid of the distracting thoughts. He walked out of the cave with Tang Chinchua and the others following behind while trembling with fear. Once they left the cave, they saw that it was a desolate place. It was definitely a secret place. Looking back at the cave, it didn't seem very eye-catching. Including Chu Mu and Tang Chinchua, there were 8 people in total. However, the 6 of them weren't that strong. Chu Mu didn't want to pay attention to them. Whether they could escape or not would depend on their own abilities and luck. He grabbed Tang Chinchua's arm and sped up, turning into a beam of light. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared in front of the 6 people. Wait for us. Don't let us go. The 6 of them were extremely anxious. They kept shouting, but Chu Mu ignored them and disappeared in front of their eyes. It's over. We're dead. Even if we die, we'll drag the 2 of them down with us, someone said with a ferocious expression. Then they started shouting, wanting to attract the experts of the marionette sect. Indeed, under their shouting, their voices were transmitted to Chu Mu and Tang Chinchua's ears. Tang Chinchua was shocked by Chu Mu's speed. That kind of speed was definitely not something a peak 9-star saint could achieve. She was absolutely sure that Chu Mu was a 3-star saint. She was excited, but when she heard the shouting behind her, her expression changed drastically. Brother Chu, they purposely lured the experts of the marionette sect here. Tang Chinchua said anxiously. Although she had an extraordinary background, she knew that they were in the territory of the marionette sect. No matter how powerful her background was, she didn't know what was going on. She couldn't help but feel nervous. There is no need to be afraid, Chu Mu said. His calm voice seemed to contain a special charm and unique power, causing the nervousness in Tang Chinchua's heart to slowly dissipate and calm down. Chu Mu's speed also increased again, becoming even faster. Suddenly, an intense killing intent attacked from the side like a waterfall. The sword light was so majestic that it was shocking. Many figures appeared in front of him. They were dashing towards him with their sword light flashing coldly. They were attacked from the front and the side. Big Brother Chu. Tang Chinchua became nervous again. Every one of them emitted an aura that was many times stronger than hers. Chu Mu grabbed Tang Chinchua's arm with one hand and held the sword light in his right hand. He sped up and dodged the majestic sword Qi coming from the side. His sword turned into a shooting star, and he became one with the sword, killing his way forward. Wherever the sword light reached, it was unstoppable. All the attacks were crushed. Wherever the sword went, it was invincible. Kill, 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 kill. Tang Chinchua only felt that there was sword light in front of her. The kind of coldness made her tremble uncontrollably. Within the cold sword light, there were traces of blood flashing, and the smell of blood assailed her nostrils. It felt like a long time, but also like an instant. The sword light and the blood in front of her had all disappeared. There was no obstruction in front of her. She subconsciously looked back and saw that the ground was littered with corpses. However, in the distance, there were waves of powerful auras approaching rapidly. Those who had arrived were all high-level saint-level warriors. Unfortunately, they were just a bunch of ants to Chu-Mu. Break! Break! No one could stop Chu-Mu in the slightest. Under his sword, they were all killed. They couldn't even slow down Chu-Mu's speed. No matter who you are, since you dared to kill the disciples of the marionette school, you must die. The killing intent was intense, and the coldness fell from the sky. The powerful aura was like the sun in the winter, making people's hearts palpitate. Tang Qianxue even had difficulty breathing. Big Brother Chu, they are the top 3 warriors of the marionette school. Tang Qianxue exclaimed, "They have all cultivated the indestructible marionette body. Their defensive power is amazing. Don't fight too long." As the granddaughter of the head of the Tang family, Tang Qianxue knew a lot of things that others did not know. The indestructible marionette body of the marionette school had amazing defensive power. If they could not break it in one go, they would be surrounded by the other warriors of the marionette school. That was why she said they could not fight too long. "Don't worry," Chu-Mu said. He flicked his finger, and a beam of yellow light shot out. It was the marionette breaking light. The marionette breaking light was a power that targeted the marionette body. The indestructible marionette body was transformed into a marionette body with a special secret art and all kinds of treasures and materials. To some extent, it was the same as a marionette. Naturally, it would be affected by the marionette breaking light. Unable to dodge, they were hit by the marionette breaking light. Immediately, they felt their bodies weaken by 30%. The power of the indestructible marionette body lay in its amazing defensive power, endurance, and powerful self-healing ability. Right now, all 3 abilities had been weakened by 30%, which was very obvious. Even the body's reaction was clearly affected. Before his eyes, an incomparably cold and sharp sword light pierced through the space and arrived brazenly. The sword light was swift and resplendent like a meteor, and there was no way to dodge it. The 14th strike of the 13 meteor strikes. Unable to dodge, unable to block, the sword tore open the black robe, pierced through the forehead, and went through the entire head. His consciousness was shattered, and even his primordial spirit was shattered in an instant. One sword strike killed a Dark Star sword saint of the marionette sect. Such an unforeseen event stunned Tang Qianxue completely. Her mind was frozen and she could not react. Experts of the 3 major fighting forces, even if they were at the lowest level, the Dark Star level, were extremely powerful and had a very high status in Sin City. Even in the Sin City Lord Mansion, which was the strongest force, they had a very high status and power. Such a powerful figure could not block one sword strike from this mysterious Big Brother Chu. Moreover, he was one of the marionette sect's top 3 battle powers. In the marionette sect, each of the top 3 battle powers had cultivated the indestructible marionette body. Their defensive power was much stronger than their own strength. Opponents of the same level could not break their defense at all. Could it be that this mysterious Big Brother Chu was a powerful figure that was even stronger than the Dark Star Sword Saint? A bright moon sword saint? Thinking of this, Tang Qianxue's heart could not stop beating fast. Even her grandfather was only a bright moon sword saint. However, her grandfather was more than 1,000 years old. This Big Brother Chu still looked so young. Puppet sex experts continued to rush over, but none of them could stop Chu-Mu's footsteps. Even though Chu-Mu was carrying Tang Qianxue, he still had to take her safety into consideration and couldn't use his full strength. However, none of them could last more than one sword. Some of the other top 3 battle powers of the marionette sect were cultivating in seclusion. Even if they heard the news and came out, it would take a long time. This period of time was enough for Chu Mu to leave with Tang Qianxue. After killing those who blocked the way, they rushed out of the marionette sect. Under Tang Qianxue's guidance, they quickly headed towards the Tang family. Along the way, it was a mess. There were a few differences between the Sin City and the 5 big cities. One of them was that fighting and killing were not forbidden in the Sin City. The top 3 battle powers of the marionette sect were not as fast as Chu Mu. They were left behind by Chu Mu and gradually disappeared. Big Brother Chu, are you a bright moon sword saint? After getting out of danger, Tang Qianxue asked excitedly. She was so excited that her face turned red. No, Chu Mu said. Right now, he was only at the peak of the Dark Star Sword Saint level. Unless he could break through to the early stage of the 9 heavens of eternity, he would have the strength of a bright moon sword saint. Of course, even if his cultivation did not increase, once his saint body reached level 7, his strength would definitely reach the level of a bright moon sword saint. Then Big Brother Chu is a Dark Star Sword Saint? Tang Qianxue asked again. Perhaps she was too excited. Yes, Chu Mu nodded. Big Brother Chu, the Dark Star Sword Saints of the marionette sect all cultivate the indestructible puppet body. Ordinary Dark Star Sword Saints cannot break through their defense. Big Brother Chu, you are too powerful. Not only can you break through their defense, but you can also kill them with one strike. Tang Qianxue exclaimed. It's just a small trick. Chu Mu said. The like of puppet breaking was not a big trick. After all, it could only be used against puppets. Tang Qianxue gradually calmed down and did not ask any more questions. She felt that this Big Brother Chu was even more mysterious. A mysterious and powerful man who looked quite young would undoubtedly attract the curiosity of young women. Big Brother Chu, you have saved me twice. Come with me to the Tang family. I will ask my grandpa to thank you. Tang Qianxue said. Chu Mu thought for a bit and agreed. What was important was that Chu Mu wanted to know how to leave the Xinyan city and return to the 5 cities. After all, from Tang Qianxue's words, he could infer that the Tang family was more powerful than the marionette sect. Since the leader of the marionette sect knew how to get to the 5 cities, the leader of the Tang family should also know. Besides, he also needed a place to settle down so that he could absorb the medicinal pellets and increase his strength. As soon as Chu Mu agreed, Tang Qianxue was overjoyed. She immediately led the way. Her speed was very fast. She could not wait to get back to the Tang family. She was afraid that Chu Mu would change his mind. As Chu Mu followed Tang Qianxue, he also paid attention to the surroundings. Although they were all cities, the difference between the Xinyan city and the 5 cities was very obvious.